Chapter 62. He was drunk, and I was drugged with an aphrodisiac. Is this fate? Xiaodong laughed self-deprecatingly and leaned back on the sofa. I did some calculations. Yesterday was my most dangerous period, and the chances of me getting pregnant are quite high. From today onwards, I can distance myself from him. So you're pretending that nothing happened? Yes. Now I'm praying that I can get pregnant. In the hotel, when Bailey Han woke up, it was already close to noon. Because of his hangover, his head was still hurting. He leaned against the headboard and rested for a while before he remembered that he had thrown Xiaodong into the bathtub last night. He casually lifted the blanket and wanted to get out of bed, but he quickly pulled the blanket over himself. What was going on? Why was he naked? Could it be? He grabbed his clothes from the side of the bed and put them on, then rushed to the bathroom. There was no one in the bathroom, and it was very clean. There was only a tank of water in the bathtub. His handsome face darkened. That woman ran away again. Xiaodong arrived at the company in the afternoon. Just as she sat in the office, the phone on her desk rang. Hello, I'm Xiaodong. May I know who's calling? Woman, why didn't you turn on your phone? Bailey Han's anger was transmitted through the phone line, and Xiaodong's ears were buzzing. She held the phone a little further away. My phone was lost last night. She thought for a moment and said, it should still be in room 305 of the Grand Hyatt Hotel. Why didn't you wake me up in the morning? What happened last night? Why did I? He paused and lowered his voice. Why was I naked? Sure enough, he came knocking on her door. Xiaodong replied calmly, Mr. Bailey, I woke up in the bathtub early in the morning and saw you sleeping on the bed. Because of this difference in treatment, I was very angry, so I deliberately didn't wake you up. What's wrong with that? As for why you were sleeping naked, how would I know? Isn't it because you have a habit of sleeping naked? The person on the other side of the phone paused for a few seconds and didn't speak, but Xiaodong could hear his heavy breathing, as if he was trying hard to suppress something. Are you sure nothing happened last night? She raised her voice. I'm sure that nothing happened last night. All right, I'm going to start working now.
Goodbye.
As soon as he finished speaking, he hung up the phone. His actions were swift and smooth. Damn it, she actually hung up on him. Was this how she should treat her savior? Bailey Han was so angry that he slammed his fist on the table. However, he soon calmed down and thought about what had happened last night. He realized that Xiaodong had been set up by someone, and that person knew a lot about them. Bailey Han specifically contacted the police chief and tactfully expressed his high concern about the attempted gang rape case last night. He also expressed his cordial attitude towards the victim. The police chief naturally understood what he meant and immediately said that he would investigate the situation as soon as possible and would not disclose any information about the victim. Su Yunqian quickly realized that her plan had failed. She angrily smashed the teacup, and her face was as cold as ice. Trash, all trash. You can't even handle such a small matter. Now that you've alerted the enemy, it'll be even more difficult to deal with her next time. Brother K said seriously, those brothers have been arrested and sent to the police station. If they can't handle it and say something they shouldn't, then it'll be very troublesome. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Just make sure they can't speak.
Su Yunqian looked at him disdainfully. This man was so useless. She really wondered how he became the leader of a gang. Baby, you're so smart. Brother K smiled and kissed her. He took out his phone and dialed a number. He said, Wild Wolf, find someone to get rid of those people in the police station. Also, tell the brothers to be careful. The person who saved that woman last night is definitely not simple. Su Yunqian's eyes flashed. Who was the person who saved that B*TCH last night? Those who saw him are all in the police station. I'm also very curious about who it is. Su Yunqian glanced at him. Be careful these days. Let's not see each other for the time being. If someone finds something that can be used against us, you know what to do. Don't worry. Even if I die, I won't give you up. He leaned over and touched her charming face. How could I bear to do that? Don't you think so, baby? Su Yunqian leaned on his chest with a coquettish smile on her face. You're just making me happy. but there was a flash of darkness in her eyes. "Stinky man, if you dare to give me up, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground." Dead people were the best at keeping secrets. Brother K and Su Yunqian both had the same idea. They wanted the informants in the police station to get rid of the 5 troublesome people. However, the informants did not even have the chance to do anything. The bureau chief attached great importance to this case and locked the 5 criminals in a special room. Other than the bureau chief himself, no one else was allowed to get close to them. The bureau chief quickly used all his means to get information from the criminals. The leader of the Yen gang, Old K, was the mastermind behind this. He immediately reported this information to Bailey Han. Almost at the same time, Zhang Dao also found out that the attack on Xiaodong had something to do with the Yen gang. Because the situation was serious, he also reported this matter to Mikakito. Therefore, Old K was in trouble. The Black Street was the most chaotic and dangerous area in a city. The people who gathered here were all fugitives and wanted criminals with criminal records. It was also the place where the major underworld forces were entrenched. Fights were common here, and it was common for people to die here. Old K received a call from one of his underlings, saying that their forces in the Black Street had been wiped out. His underlings anxiously asked him for help. Old K hurriedly brought a group of people and rushed over, only to find that everyone in the Black Street had surrounded them. According to the rules of the Black Street, guns were not allowed. Therefore, the people who surrounded them were holding all kinds of knives in their hands. Some of them were even holding iron bars. Old K secretly gestured to the people behind him as he chuckled and said, "Friends, what are you doing? Is there a misunderstanding?" Tui. A man walked out with a 30-centimeter long knife in his hand. He had a head of exploding hair and wore ripped jeans and a t-shirt. He looked like a biker gang in anime. "Old K, I can only say that you're unlucky to have offended someone you shouldn't have. They said that they'll give $1 million to whoever stabs you once." There were at least 100 people in this black mass. If each of them gave him a stab, then he would be cut into pieces. Old K looked at the crowd that was closing in on him. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He suddenly shouted, "Don't move. You're too immoral. We're all from the Black Street. Why are you siding with outsiders? You can only blame yourself for offending someone too powerful. We can't afford to offend him." After the exploding head roared, he swung his long knife at Old K. "Yeah, Old K, don't blame us. We had no choice. We still want to stay in this Black Street for a few more years." A bald man rushed forward with the iron bar in his hand and hit one of Old K's subordinates. That subordinate fell to the ground and vomited blood. "Let's go, everyone. For that $1 million. Let's go. Kill Old K." Crazed shouts rose up like a tidal wave, and a vast group of people besieged him. Swords and sticks did not have eyes, and with a single slash, an arm was gone. Blood flowed everywhere, and severed arms and legs fell to the ground in a horrifying manner. Old K didn't care about the rules anymore. He took out a pistol and fired at the crowd. The person at the front covered his wound and cursed, "F***CKU. Old K, you bastard. You actually used a gun. Brothers, take his gun and cut him into 1,000 pieces." Bang, bang, bang. The sound of gunfire continued. One by one, people fell down. Blood splattered everywhere. Old K dodged the attacks of knives and sticks while retreating under the cover of his subordinates. In his heart, he cursed Su Yunqian 1,000 times. F***CKU, Stinky B***TC. You knew the opponent wasn't to be trifled with, yet you pushed the job to me. Now I'm being chased, and I don't even know if I can survive until tomorrow. Ah. Old K screamed. He didn't know who threw a knife, but it cut off Old K's right wrist. His right hand fell to the ground, still holding the pistol tightly. Old K endured the pain and wanted to pick it up, but he was kicked away by someone behind him. His severed hand and pistol fell into the smelly ditch. "Stop, everyone stop. I'll give each of you $1 million. Let me go." At this time, Old K was panicking. He was like a stray dog. His whole body was covered in blood as he wailed in pain. "It's too late. We don't dare to take your 1 million. A blade landed on his back, and blood sprayed onto the surrounding people who were attacking him. Everyone expressionlessly wiped away the blood and continued to slash at his mangled body with their blades. Mournful screams and pleas for mercy resounded throughout the black street. Everyone looked on indifferently. From time to time, they would squeeze forward to add 2 more knives. Seeing that someone was about to chop his neck with a knife, a gunshot interrupted his action. A man wearing a black trench coat and black sunglasses appeared in front of everyone with a long gun on his shoulder. Behind him were 2 men in black suits and black sunglasses. The man said coldly, "Leave that man alive. The Senka group wants him." When the man's voice fell, the surrounding people were shocked at first. Then they began to whisper, "Look at them. They seem to have a big background. We'd better not provoke them. Old K is someone the Dragon Gang wants to deal with." Now, the Senka group suddenly appeared to protect him. Things are getting more and more heated. We'd better not get involved. That's right. It's more important to stay alive. Those people tacitly took a step back and opened up a path to Old K's mangled body. The man in the black trench coat tilted his head. The 2 men behind him immediately stepped forward. One on the left and one on the right of Old K, who was covered in blood. "Get him to the trunk.
Don't let him die."
The man in the black trench coat took the lead and stepped into a Maybach. He took off his sunglasses, revealing a handsome Asian face, Jiang Dao. The Maybach sped all the way out of the Black Street's sphere of influence and entered a luxurious entertainment club from the back door. 2 of his subordinates carried Old K up to the 10th floor of the building through a secret passageway and entered a room. The room was decorated very luxuriously and looked very unique. The entire wall facing the outside was made of crystal. From the outside, one could clearly see the situation inside. Not only that, but it also used the principles of physics to magnify the image. Even from the ground floor, one could clearly see what was happening in the room. Old K's tragic fate had just begun.
Come and see.
Hongcha 866. Chapter 63. Although he was bleeding all over, his vitals weren't injured, so he was still conscious and knew that he was taken away. He weakly said, "Sir, thank you for saving me. I will repay you. Can I trouble you to inform my brothers?" Jiang Dao bent down to look at him, a strange smile appearing on his face. "You don't have to repay me because I didn't save you. But don't worry, I won't let you die. When a person dies, there's no more pain, so there's no more fun. On the contrary, I'll let you live well." This was also the intention of the Beidang family head. Old K's eyes widened in horror. Jiang Dao straightened up and said condescendingly, "Oda, Keikuin likes sex and torture. Find a few people to play with him. 3 is too little, make it 5. I hope Keikuin will like our hospitality. F***CK, you little Japanese, kill me if you have the ability." What are you doing? Let me go." Painful and angry cries rang out incessantly. Old K was tied to the oversized iron bed. 5 men as strong as gorillas walked in. With every step they took, the floor of the room seemed to shake twice. The 5 men were all naked, with only a small piece of cloth covering their lower bodies. The cloth was bulging, and they all had lecherous smiles on their faces as they stared greedily at the body that was still bleeding on the bed.
Crash.
A man pulled open the curtain covering the crystal wall. Another 2 men dragged the tightly tied Old K to the table closest to the crystal wall. His hands that were tied behind his back were pressed tightly against the table, and his upper body was laid flat on the table. Then, he separated his legs, folded them upside down, and tied them to the 2 legs of the table on his shoulders. Old K's buttocks were raised high, exposing his most private part to the crystal wall. "Perform well. Your every move will be projected on the crystal wall for everyone on the street to see." Jiang Dao's cold voice came from outside the room. Old K could see the building on the opposite side of his face. A man pounced on him and pried open his buttocks. A second man forced his mouth open. A third, there was also a sound system installed in the room, recording all the voices of the people downstairs. My God, what's with that strange wall? Is it a new electronic screen? What's with the heavy movie playing on the screen? That little bottom is so despicable. He's clearly in so much pain, yet he's still seducing the 5 little top guys. Oh, 6p. However, the characters here don't seem to have any beauty. The man below is covered in blood, and the 5 men are too majestic. A lot of mocking and teasing words were transmitted to old K's ears through the sound system. He was so ashamed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall, but they wouldn't give him the chance. The 5 of them were like machines, torturing him over and over again. Blood mixed with the white and murky liquid sprayed everywhere. His body, hair, face, and mouth were all covered with that kind of fishy, pungent liquid. Old K's body had been injected with a strong aphrodisiac. He was clearly in great pain, but he still couldn't help but twist his body to accommodate their movements. The 5 men's mission was to humiliate Old K. Not only did they want to ravage him, but they also wanted to make him reach the height of his shame and sweep his dignity into the trash can. Death became his most extravagant wish. He was now in a situation where he couldn't live, but neither could he die. In the end, he couldn't bear the inhumane torture and wanted to bite his tongue to commit suicide. However, the men were one step ahead of him and knocked out all his teeth. Old K screamed in despair. Reality proved that his despair was correct. From then on, he embarked on the path of selling chrysanthemums. Even though Old K's fate was so miserable, he still didn't betray Su Yunqian. This was because his trump card was in Su Yunqian's hands. If he didn't want his family to die with him, he had to keep his mouth shut. Jiang Dao was under Mika Kito's orders to punish Old K, so he didn't tell Xia Xiaobao the truth. After all, some things weren't suitable for children. Therefore, Xia Xiaobao didn't know that Old K had embarked on the path of selling chrysanthemums. He heard from Jiang Dao that Old K was killed by people from the Black Street. Someone was one step ahead of us and punished Old K. When our people arrived, he was already dead. In fact, Old K was later sold to Africa to dig gold mines and sell chrysanthemums as a part-time job. Xia Xiaobao frowned. Who are they? I heard that it's the Dragon Gang, the most mysterious and largest gang in a city. We haven't found out any details yet. The only thing we're sure of is that they aren't hostile to us. Xiao Zhao's voice sounded young, but it was very majestic. A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. Don't be too ostentatious for the time being. In the future, don't act rashly without my orders. We'll make plans after Uncle Shun comes over. Yes.
Don't tell my mommy about this.
This subordinate understands. Xia Dong went to work like an ordinary white-collar worker. She had no idea that such a big thing had happened behind her back until Bailey Han called her. On the phone, Bailey Han said, "The people who hurt you at the Grand Hyatt Hotel have been dealt with. Use your brain more in the future. Don't be as stupid as a pig and jump into the hole that others dug for you." Hey, how can you say that? Xia Dong was about to protest when Bailey Han hung up on her. What's wrong with this person? Is there something wrong with his brain? Before she could finish criticizing him, a piece of news on the internet caught her attention. Black Street gang members fight. Gang leader gets stabbed 100 times. Blood flows on the streets. She clicked on it and saw that the gang leader of the Yen Gang, Old K, had been hacked to death by people on the Black Street. Then, the news detailed Old K's crimes over the years. It was said that he was involved in murder, arson, rape, and robbery. It could only be said that this guy deserved it. Xia Dong sighed. Good people have good karma. Bad people also have bad karma to deal with. She didn't take it to heart and didn't know that this matter had something to do with her. In the afternoon, Bailey Yan called to ask her to play golf on Saturday. She thought that she had nothing to do on Saturday and that it would be good to go out and relax, so she set a time to meet up. The weather on Saturday was very good. Xia Dong sent the 2 children to her aunt's house and drove to the resort. She didn't know that the person she couldn't avoid was waiting for her at an unexpected place. The people from the resort led her to the golf course. From afar, she saw Bai Liyun, who was dressed in sportswear, holding a golf club in his hand. He faced the golf ball and swung it elegantly. On the endless lawn, the ball slowly went into the hole. Xiaodong smiled and clapped. Nice shot. Bailey Yun turned to look at her. She was wearing a sportswear with short sleeves and a short skirt that exposed her knees. Her long hair was tied up in a ponytail. She looked fresh and cute, like a lively high school girl. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows and whistled, not hiding his admiration for her figure. His slender, foxy eyes were full of smiles. Do you want to compete? Forget it. Xia Dong waved her hand. I'm just a rookie. I don't dare to compete with an expert like you. Otherwise, I'll lose badly. She held the golf club with both hands and swung it at the ball. She had the demeanor of a female general, but unfortunately, the ball went too far and hit Bailey Yun's ball. Bailey Yun was convulsing with laughter. Xia, you're such a genius. You actually hit my ball. How did you manage to deviate so far from the track? You're simply too talented, hurrah? Xia Dong shrugged nonchalantly. You're funny. This is just my normal performance. If you're interested, I can teach you. It's a free kiss. Ha ha. Bai Liyun hugged his stomach and burst into laughter. He wanted to roll around on the grass. Shasha, you're so cute. All my troubles are gone when I see you. You're the happiest person in my life. All right, seeing that I can eliminate your worries, shouldn't you provide me with a reward? She looked at him with a smile. She stretched out her hand and spread it open. It was obvious that she was up to no good. He crossed his arms and took 2 steps back vigilantly. He shouted exaggeratedly, What do you want to do? I'll make it clear in advance. I sell my skills, not my body. Xia Dong rolled her eyes. Don't worry. I'm very kind. I won't force you to do such inhumane things. Then, what do you want as a reward? She blinked. Teach me how to play. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. She put down the baseball bat, clasped her hands together, and bowed respectfully. Well said, well said. My good disciple, bring me a drink first. Bailey Yun shamelessly began to exercise his authority as a master. All right, wait for me, master. Xia Dong ran to the rest area. Her ponytail swayed behind her back. She was so youthful and beautiful. Bailey Yun's smile widened. Master, take a look at what you like. Pick whatever you want. Xia Dong ran back with a pile of drinks and stuffed them all into his arms. Bailey Yun's mouth twitched. He casually picked a bottle and handed it to her. Thank you, master. With a bright smile and a clear voice, Bailey Yun began to feel guilty for ordering her around. He coughed twice and said, Take a break for a few minutes. Then, repeat what you did just now. I'll see what the problem is. Okay, master. She rubbed his shoulders obsequiously. Thank you for your hard work, master. All right. Stop flattering me. I have a creepy feeling. Xia, you're not playing any tricks, are you? Bailey Yun shrugged his shoulders in disgust. Master, I'm too sad to hear you say that. I just want to respect you and be filial to you. She pouted her red lips and said pitifully. Stop. The word filial came out. He wailed and raised his hands in surrender. I give up. I apologize. I shouldn't have laughed at your terrible skills. Put away your weak and helpless expression. It really doesn't suit you. Well said. She smiled and patted his shoulder. The next issue of our magazine's exclusive interview is with the popular female star Lin Weiwei. The magazine discussed it with her agent, but was rejected. I remember that you have a close relationship with her. Can you help her? Hey, you didn't agree to play golf with me because of this, did you? Bailey Yun glared at her unhappily.
How could that be?
I'm more than happy to have the handsome and suave second young master ask me out. How could I have such impure thoughts? She blinked innocently. So? You can help, okay?
Okay.
It's just a matter of a phone call. Bailey Yun really didn't know what to do with her. He handed the club to her in a bad mood. Let's play. Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 64. She smiled as she swung her golf club. This time, her golf ball didn't collide with someone else's ball. Instead, it flew far away and hit the person who was playing in the distance. That person's shoulder was hit, and he naturally turned around. Then, Xia Dong had the urge to throw herself on the ground. Bailey Han. Damn it. Who could tell her why Bailey Han was here? Of course, Bailey Han saw her as well. His obsidian-like eyes flashed with complicated emotions. He said a few words to his partners who were playing basketball with him, then walked over to Xia Dong and the others. Xia Dong covered her face. She didn't want to see anyone. Bailey Yun's hand landed on her shoulder, and he sighed. Just based on your golf skills, I'm deeply ashamed. Bailey Yun. If you mock me again, I'll bite you to death. Bailey Han was walking over. He was walking towards them. She was already very frustrated, but this guy was still adding fuel to the fire. Bailey Yun looked meaningfully at the person who was walking towards them. His lips curled into a faint smile. Don't worry, I'm here. Besides, I only hit him. He won't go so far as to kill you. Sob sob. Give me a piece of tofu, and I'll just kill myself. Bailey Han was wearing a set of white sportswear. The bright color made him look less cold and hard than usual. Instead, he looked more casual and at ease. Taking advantage of the endless lawn, he slowly walked over. It really did give off the feeling of an orchids and jade trees. However, his voice was as cold as ever. Your ball. There was no expression on his face. His deep black eyes looked at Xia Dong. He stretched out his arm and slowly opened his palm. In his palm was the golf ball that she had just hit. So, he wasn't here to pick a fight, but to return the ball? Xia Dong's brain instantly stopped working. Thank you. She reached out to take the ball from his palm. Her fingers brushed across his palm, and he immediately felt a numb feeling flowing through his palm. His heart tightened, and he quickly grasped her hand, wrapping her hand in his palm as well. Xia Dong's body stiffened. She tried to pull her hand away, but couldn't. Bailey Yun took a step forward and put his arm around her waist in a protective posture. There was an apologetic smile on his face. Brother, Xia's golf skills aren't good. She didn't mean to hit you. Please forgive her. Yes, it was an accident.
I'm sorry.
Please let go of me. Bailey Han looked at Bailey Yun's hand around her waist. Xia Dong. Bailey Han, stop right there. Bailey Han pulled her forward a few steps and finally stopped. Right here. I'll teach you how to play. Let go. I don't need you to teach me. I already have a master. Xia Dong used her left hand to pry his hand away. Brother, Xia has already acknowledged me as her master. I won't trouble you anymore. Bailey Yun followed over. He had a smile on his face, but his eyes were cold. Bailey Han's aura became even colder. He glared daggers at Xia Dong. Since you hit me, you have to apologize. I've already apologized. You're not sincere enough. I won't accept it. What do you want? Xia Dong didn't understand what was wrong with him. Learn from me until the ball goes into the hole without hitting anyone. I'm responsible for your lethality. He crossed his arms and looked at her coldly. You're joking, right? I've never joked. Hold the cue stick. He didn't wait for her to refute. He pushed the cue stick into her arms and ordered coldly, start now. She was angry and glared at him. Why should I listen to you? He said leisurely, because your ball hit me. As the victim, I have the right to ask for compensation. Bailey Yun blocked him. Brother, Xia has already said that she's not willing. Don't force her. Two equally outstanding men, one on the left and one on the right, stood opposite Xia Dong, staring at each other with murderous gazes. She could almost feel the electric currents converging in the air, and she, who was sandwiched in the middle, felt immense pressure. She quietly took a step back with her right foot and retreated. Bailey Han grabbed her waist and said casually, "Deserted island." Xia Dong immediately froze. This despicable iceberg man actually threatened her. But she just had to be threatened by him. Bailey Han said again, "Did I force you?" She smiled stiffly. "No, why would you?" "Since you didn't, let's start. Relax your body. Put your right hand here, and put your left foot like this." Bailey Han completely ignored Bailey Yun and guided her movements seriously. Bailey Yun was furious. He glared at Xia Dong with disappointment. Xia Dong smiled at Bailey Yun to please him. Before her smile was complete, Bailey Han turned her cheek away. Focus when you're playing. Bai Liyun angrily threw the cue stick and left. She sat in the rest area and watched as that person placed his hand on her waist and helped her to correct her posture. She watched as he held her arm and helped her swing the cue stick. Bai Liyun was so angry that he threw the ball and turned to leave. He drove his flashy car and sped away like a gust of wind. Bailey Han saw Bai Liyun explode in anger from the corner of his eyes. The corners of his lips curled up, and he leaned closer to her. Unknowingly, his voice became gentle. Hold a cue stick like this. Look over here and aim. Very good. Xia Dong took a step back according to the method he taught her. She accidentally stepped on his foot and quickly apologized. I'm sorry. When she turned around, she realized that the two of them were so close that she could feel his body temperature and hear his heartbeat. Almost instinctively, Bailey Han hugged the woman in his arms. When he realized what he had done, Xia Dong had already raised her hand and slapped him. I am sorry. I suddenly remembered that I still have something to do. I'll leave first. Xia Dong didn't dare to look at his livid face and ran away. When she ran far away, she suddenly remembered that her things were still on the court and ran back. Bailey Han was still standing in the same place. There was no expression on his face, but the murderous aura that he released made the people around him afraid to come close. Xia Dong rushed over and grabbed her things. She laughed awkwardly and was about to sneak away again when he grabbed her wrist. You hit me, and you want to leave just like that? What else can I do? Do you want me to stay and wait for your revenge? Treat me to afternoon tea. He said that he wanted her to treat him, but he didn't give her any time to answer. He grabbed her wrist and left. She shouted anxiously from behind, Fine, I'll treat you. I won't go back on my word. Please don't run so fast, okay? When she was dragged into Bailey Han's Rolls-Royce, Xia Dong was already out of breath. Bailey Han, what do you want? Afternoon tea, he answered calmly. Buckle your seatbelt. Xia Dong didn't have the strength to complain and buckled her seatbelt. The Rolls-Royce drove out of the resort. Bailey Han said, Let's go to the top of the mountain. Let's go to the shallow beach. You can see the sunset there. Since she couldn't avoid the fate of having afternoon tea with him, she should at least choose a place that she liked. The host is treating. Of course we choose a place that the guest likes, he retorted lightly. Since the host is footing the bill, why can't the host have the final say? We'll go to the shallow beach today. We'll go to the top of the mountain next time when you treat. He suddenly turned to look at her. Are you hinting that I can ask you out for tea another day? I'm just saying. Don't take it seriously. Bailey Han smiled slightly and changed their destination. He drove to the shallow beach and found a quiet and elegant tea house. The tea house was close to the sea. Standing in the corridor, they could feel the sea breeze and hear the sound of the tide. They chose a table near the balcony. A beautiful woman in a cheongsam ordered tea elegantly and blended into the surrounding atmosphere. It was indeed very comfortable. Xia Dong relaxed and leaned into the soft chair. She politely tried to find a topic to talk about. Why are you at the golf course? To accompany a business partner. Xia Dong was speechless. You just left him like that? Ever since he came to find trouble with her with the ball, he hadn't gone back. What an irresponsible jerk. He glanced at her indifferently. I told him that I had to deal with some personal matters. Oh. After that, the two of them fell silent. He suddenly said, The pillow is very comfortable. That's good. I went to many shops to find it. According to the shop owner, the amount of stuffing in this pillow has been scientifically calculated, and it's the most ergonomic. After the gift was approved, she happily talked about her shopping experience. Help me buy 5 more. I want to give them to my family.
Huh?
Did he think she was a purchasing agent? How much did you spend? Report to me, and I'll return it to you tenfold. He really thought she was a purchasing agent. Grandpa, Grandma, my parents, and my son, one each. Wait, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Bailey, I can give you the contact number of the shop directly.
You can get your assistant to buy it.
I believe in your taste. He took a sip of tea with a calm expression. But don't you think it's troublesome? I don't think so. He looked as though it was only right. Of course you don't think so. Because I'm the troublesome one. She gritted her teeth. He smiled. Then I'll have to trouble you. In return, I'll treat you to tea next time. You don't have to force yourself. Really, I think we can keep a distance and not do anything that will cause misunderstandings. He looked at her in surprise. Miss Xia, why would you have such a strange idea? Isn't it normal for friends to help each other? She wanted to bang her head on the table. She never knew that he had such a rogue side. He smiled. Any other questions?
No.
I'll send it to your office next Monday. She had a bitter expression on her face, and her tone was full of resentment. Miraculously, he felt very happy. The depression that had accumulated at the golf course was all swept away. As an emotional single-celled animal, Bailey Han didn't hesitate to interpret his happiness as the thrill of revenge. Who asked her to hit his shoulder with her lousy golf skills? As for asking her to treat him to afternoon tea, that was purely to make up for it. Young Master didn't define this behavior as pestering or any similar words. Although she was forced, Xia Dong still put in a lot of effort when choosing the pillows. She chose a pair of white-haired old men with youthful faces for the old madam and old master. She chose a misty rain painting in Jiangnan 4 by Jinxiu. She chose a landscape painting in early autumn for Bailey Xiong. The pillow she chose for Bailey Han-sun was a mother cat holding a baby cat with a large English letter love on the back. Beauty novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 65. On Monday, Bailey Han looked up at the door of his office every hour or two. It was not until the afternoon that his secretary knocked on his office door with a big box in her arms. There were 5 pillows, and all of them were very beautiful, especially the one for his son. Bailey Han regretted not getting one more for himself. Although he already had one in his office, he could have gotten another one to use at home. Xia Dong had just finished a meeting when her phone rang.
It was Bailey Han.
My family likes the pillows you chose. To express my gratitude, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Do you have time? Xia Dong raised her eyebrows. I don't have time tonight, tomorrow night, or even Friday night. She had to go home to accompany her son and daughter. How could she have time to accompany him? It's okay. I'll make an appointment for Saturday. His attitude was so good that there was nothing to say. There was no sign of anger at all. This made Xia Dong panic. Could it be that he wanted to pursue her? No, that's not right. He already has a fiancé. Then why was he playing tricks to get back at her? Okay. She gritted her teeth. Before she was completely sure that she was pregnant, she couldn't be too ruthless. It was as if Bailey Han had been possessed. He was a completely different person. He was so gentlemanly and polite. After she entered the dining room, he even pulled out a chair for her. When they were eating, he even carefully put food in her bowl. Xia Dong ate as if she was sitting on pins and needles. She couldn't understand what he was thinking at all. Indeed, an icy face suited him better. A week later, Xia Dong felt that she could finally be free. Because she was pregnant. For the sake of caution, she deliberately used 5 pregnancy test kits. The test results all showed that she was pregnant. Her efforts had finally paid off. Xia Dong happily told Yi Siki the good news. She hugged her son and daughter and kissed them fiercely. Babies, Mommy will take you out for a picnic this weekend. She had been busy with borrowing seeds and hadn't played with the children in a long time. Okay. Mommy is the best. Xiao Guai hugged her neck and cheered. Mom, did you pick up money on the street? Did you get a raise? Got a promotion? Or did you win a prize? Xiao Bao asked with a doubtful look on his face. Xia Dong giggled.
No.
Mommy just wants to go out and play with you. She had another plan, and that was to kick Bailey Han out of the picture. No matter what his motive was, he would definitely not get close to her in the future after seeing her worst side. Xia Dong arranged to meet at a bar. She was wearing a sexy spaghetti strap dress, heavy makeup, and a wine-red wig as she appeared in front of Bailey Han. She leaned on his arm flirtatiously and said in a coquettish voice, Hey, handsome, why are you here alone? Do Do you want me to have a drink with you? Bailey Han looked at her coldly and let her hand wander from his shoulder to his chest without saying a word. Handsome, since you're not saying anything, I'll take it as a yes. She smiled flirtatiously and pushed a glass of wine in front of him. She pouted her sexy lips and said coquettishly, "Come on, let's have a drink, okay?" "Xiaodong, what are you doing?" Bailey Han suddenly said and pushed her away from his lap. "Oh, you recognized me." She blinked her large eyes and smiled flirtatiously. "This is my true appearance. Do you like it?" He spat out 2 words indifferently, boring. The smile on Xiaodong's face was about to crack. She clenched her fists fiercely. Okay, it seemed like she had to use her trump card. She smiled and raised her eyebrows. "Since you think I'm boring, then I won't be an eyesore here. I'll go find some fun myself." She swayed her slender waist and walked to the middle of the dance floor flirtatiously. A handsome man immediately walked in front of her and said with a smile, "Hey baby, why haven't I seen you around recently?" She leaned on the man like a koala and looked at him flirtatiously. "Because I've been too busy recently. Baby, did you miss me?" "Of course, it's not just me. The other handsome men in the nightclub missed you too." The handsome man hugged her slender waist. The 2 of them were almost stuck together and danced to the music. In the middle of the dance floor, the couple's bodies were tightly pressed together. Bailey Han noticed that the man's palm was supporting her waist and another hand was rubbing her back. As for her, she was looking at him tenderly, as if she was looking at her lover. After the dance, the handsome man kissed her cheek. Then, another handsome man went on stage. Bailey Han, who was watching from the side, couldn't stand it anymore. "Good for you, Xiaodong. Not only were you flirting with other men, you even danced. Not only did you dance, but you even changed to a second, a third, and a fourth. Do you still have any integrity?" The wine in the wine glass seemed to have turned into a bitter liquid. It tasted terrible. Bailey Han was very irritated. The music was so loud that it gave him a headache. The usually calm and rational young Master Bailey didn't care about his image and rushed to the dance floor with a fierce face. He grabbed Xiaodong's wrist and said, "That's enough. Come with me." Xiaodong flung his hand away and shouted angrily, "What right do you have to control me? You're not my boyfriend, nor my husband. What right do you have to control me?" Her shout was especially loud. Everyone on the dance floor fell silent and focused their attention on the 2 of them. Bailey Han's face darkened. His handsome face was cold, and he stared at her with a sharp gaze. "Say that again?" Xiaodong raised her chin.
"Say it again, then."
"Who's afraid of who? You're not my boyfriend, nor my husband. What right do you have to control me?" "What right do you have?" Bailey Han abruptly pulled her into his embrace and used his mouth to block her chattering little mouth. Wow, the people around them were shocked. His anger was transmitted through this kiss. He sucked and bit her lips fiercely until he tasted blood in his mouth. Only then did he soften his actions. After the initial shock, Xiaodong stomped on his foot heavily, but he nimbly dodged it. She bit his lips fiercely again, but he still didn't let go. Her right elbow struck his ribs fiercely. This time, he finally let go of her. "Bastard, are you *king addicted?" Xiaodong didn't care about her image and scolded him loudly. She threw a left hook at his cheek. "Ka." He suddenly grabbed her wrist, his eyes burning with anger. "If you continue to mess around, I'll use the same method to shut you up." Wow. A group of infatuated women made a sound. They even whispered among themselves, "That man is so manly." "I want him too." Xiaodong rolled her eyes in her heart and sneered. "If you're rude to me again, I'll sue you for sexual assault." "Young master, don't forget that you have a fiancé. Although I like handsome guys, I don't like handsome guys who are taken. So, please don't pester me in the future." She flung his hand away forcefully and walked away in her 10-centimeter high heels.
"So, he's a married man."
Sigh. What a pity. Bailey Han's entire body exploded with a ruthless aura. His eyes were cold, and his malicious eyes swept across the crowd. The people around him immediately scattered like birds and beasts. God, this man was too scary. That damned woman. No one had ever dared to speak to him like that. She actually despised him. Damn it. How could he like her? A woman like her who seduced men everywhere, he would find her dirty even if she was given to him. She had completely forgotten who had hugged and kissed her just now. After Yi Siki heard Xia Dong's story of dumping him, she mercilessly knocked her on the forehead. Aren't you going overboard? You just had a good time with him, and now you're turning your back on him. This is a classic example of irresponsible behavior. Xia Dong shrank into the sofa. I'm not. I'm doing this for his own good. I don't want to ruin his relationship with Su Yunqian. Yi Siki gave her a look that said, go ahead and *T. All right, I admit it. It's mainly for me and the children. I don't care if he's really forgotten or if he doesn't remember what happened 5 years ago. I don't want him to find out about Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai and snatch them away from me. Yi Siki rolled her eyes. Haven't you thought of snatching him away and reuniting your family of 4? Xia Dong shouted exaggeratedly. Sis, it's still daytime and you're already dreaming? Firstly, I don't want to get married. Secondly, what kind of person is Bailey Han? Why would he marry someone like me? Firstly, you don't want to get married because you haven't met someone you want to marry. Who knows, maybe Bailey Han is that person. Secondly, someone like you? What's wrong with someone like you? You're a high-class white-collar worker with an annual salary of a few $100,000. You can support yourself and your children. You're beautiful and capable. Only an idiot wouldn't fall for you. Yi Siki retorted in disappointment. Xia Dong hugged her and grinned as she rubbed her face against hers. That's because you're my friend. That's why you can see the good in me. But Bailey's family is so rich that they can rival a country. They want to marry a daughter from a wealthy family. Would they marry a commoner like me? It's not impossible for a sparrow to turn into a phoenix. Aren't there many commoner women among the British princesses? Xia Dong blinked. That's just an example. It can't be promoted as the truth. Yi Siki poked her arm and smiled slyly. What about Bailey Yun? I think he's very interested in you. Didn't he ask you out to play golf some time ago? Spare me. I only treat him as a good friend. Moreover, he's Bailey Han's younger brother. If I really develop feelings for him, it'll be so awkward. He's such a handsome and rich, eligible bachelor.
How can you not be moved by him?
Yi Siki held her forehead speechlessly. Oh my God, you're wasting God's gift. I really wonder if you like women. Xia Dong smiled sinisterly. Then aren't you in danger? Yi Siki hugged her chest and stepped back. Sorry, I already have a husband and a child. I'm determined not to be gay with you. Xia Dong's expression turned serious. She said in all seriousness, anyway, I won't get married. Dear, let's not talk about this anymore, okay? Yi Siki froze. Xia Dong narrowed her eyes. I'm planning to take the children out for a picnic and fly kites this weekend. Do you want to come along? Sure. But my old Lin has an operation this weekend, so he can't go with us. I know your gynecologist is very busy. Let's not make things difficult for him. Take your Nyonyo and my 2 little guys to the suburbs this weekend. Since there were women and children, Xia Dong didn't dare to take everyone to the mountains. She drove the car to the suburbs highway. About 500 meters away from the highway was a wide lawn with lush trees, a gurgling river, and unknown wildflowers blooming on the lawn. The scenery was quite beautiful. Xiao Guai and Nyonyo were like wild horses that had escaped their reins, running around happily on the lawn. Ad Xinwu 799. Chapter 66. Xia Dong was worried about Xiao Guai's health, so she reminded her to run slower and not fall. Xia Dong and Yi Siki kept an eye on the child as they laid out a tablecloth on the grass and placed the food they brought from home on the tablecloth. There were steak, fried chicken legs, prawns, fish fillets, vegetable salad, fruits, and many other snacks. While they were having fun, a Rolls-Royce stopped not far away. A handsome man in casual clothes stepped out, followed by a little boy in sportswear. Xia Dong was the first to see them. When her gaze fell on Bailey Han, she was stunned. She turned to look at the little boy behind him, and her face suddenly turned pale. Bailey Han's son was actually him, Bailey. She was an idiot. They both had the same surname, Bailey, and they were both so outstanding. Why didn't she think of it? Yi Siki asked, "Little Xia, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale all of a sudden?" Bailey Han is here and his son. Yi Siki turned around to take a look, then quickly turned around and put his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. Don't be nervous. Didn't you say that in front of outsiders, the children should call you auntie? They're so smart. As long as you remind them, they'll understand." "No, you don't understand. It's not just because of that." Xiaodong's heart began to turn cold. Her eyes were filled with desolation and helplessness as she muttered, "He hates me. He hates me very much. He hates me for abandoning him." She would never forget Bailey Yi's lonely expression in the zoo, and the words he said. She knew that he hated her. Yi Siki looked at the helpless Xiaodong, and his heart ached. He hugged her and patted her back gently as he whispered, "Little Xia, don't be like this. You still have Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao." Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. They were already in the suburbs, yet they still bumped into each other. "Yes, I still have Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao. I can't do this." Xiaodong gradually calmed down. When she was ready to face them, Bailey Han and Bailey Yi had already walked past them. The father and son walked towards the empty lawn with the same cold expression. They looked straight ahead and did not even look at her. A large group of people followed behind them. Soon, servants held up umbrellas above their heads. Servants also set up folding chairs, tables, and food. "Brother, look. It's Brother Yi. Is that handsome uncle next to him his daddy?" Xiao Guai tugged at her brother's arm curiously. Xiao Bao also noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on the father and son. Her small lips pursed, hiding her anger. They actually dared to appear in front of Mommy. This was too much. Bailey Yi sat under the umbrella as the nanny served him attentively. Bailey Han looked around and then walked towards the river. His assistant, Lu Zihao, followed behind him with a document in his hand. As he walked, he read, "President, the survey results show that the lawn has a total area of 2,400 square meters. The lawn is 560 meters away from the road and 278, 9 meters away from the river. What do you think about building a water park here?" Bailey Han suddenly turned around and asked him, "Will it be too far from the city?" Generally, amusement parks were built in the city with convenient transportation. This area has already been planned as the outer development circle of the city. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent 20 million to buy this land. In addition, within a year, 2 highways will be diverted here, so transportation will be more convenient. Bailey Han had bought this land, but he had not decided what to do with it. His son's plan for the amusement park made his eyes light up. He brought his son along to inspect the site to see if it was suitable. The result was satisfactory. Building a water park was very practical. After telling Lu Zihao some things, he stood alone by the water and thought about things. From time to time, he heard the laughter of children. He knew that it was the child that Xiaodong and her friend had brought. He did not turn his head to look. He wanted to ignore everything about her and not let her control his emotions. However, Bailey Yi, who was sitting alone under the umbrella, could not help but look at them. They were flying a kite. Xiao Guai was holding the kite from behind, while Xiao Bao was running in front. When the kite was in the sky, he handed the string to her. "Brother is so nice," Xiao Guai giggled. Her crisp laughter echoed on the quiet lawn. She opened her palm and gave the chocolate in her hand to Xiao Bao. "Brother, this is your favorite chocolate. I saved it for you." Xiao Bao touched her soft hair. Nuno ran over with a pastry and stuffed a piece into each of their mouths. The 3 children pointed at the pastry crumbs on each other's faces and laughed. Hearing their joyous laughter, Bailey Yi's little face was expressionless, but his clear eyes revealed a hint of admiration. When Bailey Han came back, he saw this scene. He touched his head. "Didn't you bring a net to catch butterflies?" "Daddy will catch butterflies with you." Bailey Yi wanted to make a butterfly specimen, so he took the opportunity to go out with his father and brought a net to catch butterflies. Bailey Han rolled up his sleeves. Even though he was holding a net, his movements were as elegant as a European aristocrat. Xiaodong watched Bailey Yi run around with a small net from afar. Bailey Han smiled and said something. His little face puffed up and showed an unconvinced expression. She couldn't help but guess what Bailey Han said to make him show such a cute expression. She felt a little sad. Since he was born, she had never hugged him or taken care of him for a minute. No wonder he resented her. "Mommy, what's wrong? Your eyes are red." At some point, Xiao Guai had sat down beside Xiaodong and worriedly asked. "Mommy is fine. Just now, a little bug flew into Mommy's eyes." She quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and said with a smile, "Mommy, let me help you blow." Xiao Guai raised her head seriously. Her chubby little hands held her cheeks and gently blew on her eyes. Xiaodong smiled and blinked. "The little bug is out. Mommy is fine. Baby is amazing." "Xiao Guai, do you remember what Mommy said before? In front of outsiders, you have to call Mommy Aunt. If someone asks, you have to say Mommy is your aunt. Do you understand?" Yes, I still remember, Aunt." "Good girl." Her heart trembled and she hugged her daughter tightly in her arms. From beginning to end, Bailey Han didn't look at Xiaodong and the others. He quickly caught 2 beautiful butterflies, but Bailey Yi didn't catch any. He smiled and teased his son. "So, there are things my son is not good at." Bailey Yi puffed up his cheeks angrily and stared with his big eyes. "Daddy, I'm only 4 years old. When I'm as tall as you, I'll definitely be more capable than you." Bailey Han found his puffed-up cheeks very interesting and couldn't help but pinch them. The smile in his eyes widened. Bailey Han's son, is naturally very capable." "Of course." Bailey Yi raised his chin coolly, looking insufferably arrogant. Bailey Han laughed. This was the first time he laughed openly in front of everyone. The servants looked as if they had seen a ghost. Bailey Yi also had an expression of wow, so it can be like this. Bailey Han didn't take his son's surprise seriously. He directly picked him up from the ground and said, "Xiao Yi, do you want to try throwing me high?" His son's eyes widened even more. "Throwing me high? Is this what many fathers do in TV dramas?" It was as if he was facing a sacred ceremony, and he nodded cautiously. "Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let you get hurt," he said comfortingly, and then threw him up. Bailey Yi bit his lip and didn't scream. His little face was full of surprise. Xiaodong, who had been secretly watching them, almost went into shock. She jumped up from the ground. Fortunately, Yi Siki held her hand. "Little Xia, don't be agitated." Bailey Han caught his son steadily. Xiaodong sighed in relief. Yi Siki sighed. "I think we should go back first. If this goes on, you'll definitely not be able to resist rushing up." Xiaodong didn't say anything. She watched as Bailey Han tossed her son up and down and caught him steadily. Her heart also went up and down, rising and falling unsteadily. By the time Bailey Han and his son finished the game, Xiaodong and the others had already left and were walking on the road. He couldn't help but wonder what the relationship between her and the 2 children who were so close to her was. No, he had decided not to care about her anymore. No matter what she did, it had nothing to do with him. In less than a month of pregnancy, Xiaodong began to have pregnancy symptoms. She retched and felt nauseous. Fortunately, she hid it well and didn't arouse suspicion. On this day, Xiao Tianxing called to invite her to a barbecue party at his ranch on the weekend. When she heard that Bailey Han and Su Yunqian were also going, she immediately declined. Xiao Tianxing said with a smile, "Ayun already expected that you would refuse, so he asked me to tell you that if you don't come, he will ask Lin Weiwei to refuse the interview with your magazine." Xiaodong smiled bitterly. "It seems that I have no choice but to accept. Please help me tell Bailey Yin that I despise his despicable behavior." Xiao Tianxing laughed. "Don't worry, I will definitely pass on this sentence." After work on Friday, Bailey Yin drove his flashy red sports car, holding a large bouquet of perfumed lilies to Xiaodong's downstairs to pick her up. Bailey Yin rarely wore formal suits. He usually wore casual clothes, but today he wore an expensive handmade suit for the first time. The high-grade silver made his figure very tall and straight. He gentlemanly sent the flowers and smiled. I came here to apologize to you. Miss Xia, please forgive my despicable behavior. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows in amusement. Do you think I can be bought with a bouquet of flowers? Of course not, so I have already booked a restaurant. I don't know if Miss Xia would like to honor me. Okay, which restaurant?
Keep it a secret first.
I promise you will be surprised. You are so mysterious. If I am not surprised, I will embarrass you. His charming fox eyes were full of smiles. Don't worry, I am full of confidence. Get in the car. What about my car? Give me the key, I will ask my friend to help you drive it back. Bailey Yin made a phone call. In less than 5 minutes, a young handsome man riding a motorcycle rushed over. He threw the key to the handsome man. Son, this is my girlfriend's car. Be careful, the address is… Don't worry, I will definitely send the car back to sister-in-law completely. I will put the key in the security room of the community. The handsome man called a son, waved to the two, and drove away. Hey, when did I become your girlfriend? Don't talk nonsense. Xia Dong waited for Bailey Yun's friend to leave and began to settle accounts. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 67. I'm just trying to make son pay more attention to you. Don't be angry. I'll take you to eat something delicious later. Appa, you've watched too many Korean dramas. Haha, Xia. You're so cute. Get lost. The sports car drove from the city to the suburbs, and then from the suburbs to the mountain road. The sky was already dark, and the car was still winding around the mountainside. Xia Dong joked, Are you taking me to the wilderness in Strange Tales from a Chinese studio? Bailey Yin laughed. Don't worry, there are no fox spirits or female ghosts in painted skin here. We'll be there soon. After driving for more than 10 minutes, they finally arrived at their destination. They were now at the top of the mountain, and there was a large lake here. The restaurant that Bailey Yin mentioned was built in the middle of the lake. To be exact, it was not a luxurious restaurant, but a quaint wooden house. The only way to the wooden house was a wooden bridge. Countless lotus lanterns were lit on the lake, and the whole restaurant seemed to be floating on the water. It was so beautiful that it surprised her. It's so beautiful. How did you find this place? Bailey Yin took her hand and walked onto the wooden bridge. The person who lives here is a friend I met in the United States. He used to run a Chinese restaurant in the United States, but he eventually returned to his hometown to retire. This is where he settled down. He pointed to the hillside opposite the lake for her to see. Over there is the villa that he built. This wooden house is the place where he entertains his friends when he's itching for skills. Walking into the wooden house, the decoration was very simple, but it was all very quaint. She could see the patterns on the wooden table and wooden chairs, and it made her feel relaxed and happy. A white-haired old man walked out from the inner room. His wrinkled face was peaceful. Yin, is this the lady you were talking about? Bailey Yin raised his eyebrows. Yes, Uncle Chen. I brought her here to see you. Of course, there's another reason, which is to freeload your food and drink. Xia Dong nodded politely. Uncle Chen, sorry to trouble you. Uncle Chen laughed. It's no trouble at all. Have a seat first, and the dishes will be served soon. After that, he beckoned a pretty girl to pour tea for them, and he went back into the room. After a while, the sumptuous dishes were served one by one. The tomato-stewed beef brisket with some coriander was very attractive in color. The milky white ginseng chicken soup emitted a fresh, sweet, and mellow aroma. There were also fresh and delicious stir-fried seasonal vegetables, which were verdant and tender, which aroused people's appetite and made them restless. Uncle Chen, aren't you joining us? Xia Dong stood aside with his hands behind his back when he saw Uncle Chen serving the dishes. I can't wait. There's a cake in the kitchen. Uncle Chen to them personally to serve them some sweet rice wine. Xia Dong smiled shyly. Sorry, I can't drink. I get drunk the moment I touch alcohol. Uncle Chen smiled kindly. This is Japanese rice wine. The alcohol content is very low. You won't get drunk if you drink a little. Bailey Yun seemed to have thought of something and laughed. Forget it. Let's not persuade her to drink. Uncle Chun, you don't know. Last time she got drunk, she pulled my brother and left. Xia Dong stopped him. Hey, don't say any more. It's too embarrassing. Young people, what are you afraid of? It's okay to be embarrassed. In one's life, it's only interesting to do things that are out of line a few times. Uncle Chun smiled and put away the wine. Ayun, don't drink anymore. You still have to drive. Not sure if she was moved by Uncle Chen's words, but Xia Dong suddenly had the urge to try. She took a sip of the wine in the cup, the fragrance lingered in her mouth, and there was no smell of alcohol at all. Unknowingly, the cup of wine went down her stomach. She blinked and laughed. This is the first time in my life that I didn't get drunk after drinking. But your face is already red. Bailey Yun supported his head with one hand, admiring her red cheeks from the wine. At this moment, she was really beautiful. Her eyes were like treasures, and there was a faint mist in them. Her eyes flashed with an intoxicated luster. He couldn't help but reach out and use his finger to trace her delicate eyebrows, caressing her plump lips. Her eyes revealed surprise and uneasiness. He suddenly retracted his hand and smiled mischievously. How is it? Are you satisfied with the place I brought you to? She smiled and nodded. Couldn't be more satisfied.
Bam.
The lights suddenly went out, and Uncle Chen's voice came from a quiet room. Let's welcome the last dessert. Under the cold moonlight, Uncle Chen walked out from the room with a cake in his hands, and the cake was lit with candles. Ayun, happy birthday. Uncle Chen placed the cake on the table. Thank you, Uncle Chen. Bailey Yun's eyes flashed with a smile. He saw Xia Dong's shocked expression under the candlelight, and then she puffed her cheeks. Just when he thought she was going to be angry, she suddenly laughed again. So, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, I also want to give you a present. Bailey Yun was very curious. What present? She smiled and didn't answer. She turned to Uncle Chun. Uncle Chun, do you have any musical instruments here? Uncle Chun was a classical music enthusiast. I have an arrow here. That's great, can I borrow it? Of course. Uncle Chun took the arrow. Bailey Yun watched as she took the arrow, skillfully plucked the strings, and then tuned it. She tilted her head slightly and focused on the arrow, as if she was about to start a sacred work. Her fingertips slowly plucked the strings, and just as the notes jumped a few bars, Uncle Chun became excited. It was a reflection of the moon. He didn't expect this little girl to play the arrow, and what was even more incredible was that she played it so well. The ethereal music flowed slowly under the moonlight, and her fingertips gently slid between the strings. She lowered her eyes and focused on playing. The moonlight shone on her body, and she was as charming as the goddess of moonlight. Bailey Yun was intoxicated by her music, and his deep eyes watched her all the way until the song ended. She raised her head and smiled slowly. Bailey Yun, happy birthday. Thank you. This is the most special present I've ever received. His heart trembled, and he tried hard to suppress something in his voice. Uncle Chin was very excited. Xiao Xia, I didn't expect you to play the arrow. There aren't many young people who know this nowadays. My uncle likes the arrow very much, and under his influence, I learned it for 2 years. I haven't touched it in a long time, and my hands are a little rusty. I've embarrassed myself in front of Uncle Chen. You're too kind. You play it very well. It was getting late, and Uncle Chen asked them to stay for the night. However, Xia Dong didn't want the children to worry, so she insisted on going home. On the way back, the alcohol started to kick in, and Xia Dong felt a little dizzy. Walking on the wooden bridge was like walking on clouds. She put her hands behind her back and looked up at the night sky, taking light steps. Bailey Yun's heart skipped a beat when he saw this, and he quickly grabbed her arm. Xia Xia, watch your step. She turned back and giggled. I'm fine. Look, I can even dance. She stood on her toes and struck a classic ballet pose. She wanted to twirl around for him to see, but he grabbed her arm tightly and said helplessly, Okay, I know you're very good. Let's stop fooling around and go home, okay? Yes, yes, let's go home. I miss Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai so much. Let's go quickly. She hugged his arm and giggled foolishly. Bailey Yun couldn't help but facepalm. Sure enough, he couldn't let her drink. Bailey Yun tied her to the seat with the seatbelt and patted her head. Xia xia, I'm going to drive. Gigai, don't move. Okay, I know. Hurry up and drive. She grinned and laughed. Her rosy cheeks glowed seductively under the soft light, and her pure smile made him feel inexplicably happy. Her plump lips parted slightly, and his hand slowly moved from her head to her cheek. His eyes were filled with desire. Hee, it tickles. She laughed until her shoulders trembled. You naughty guy. His charming thoughts were broken by her laughter. He helplessly pinched her cheeks, exhaled a long breath, and started the car. The night scenery outside the car quickly passed by. The person beside him breathed steadily and slowly fell asleep. Bailey Yun occasionally glanced at her, and the smile in his eyes never disappeared. The car stopped in her neighborhood. Bailey Yun looked at her sleeping quietly and couldn't bear to wake her up. Suddenly, a pleasant ringtone sounded. She suddenly woke up, bounced up from the back of the seat, and rummaged around for her phone. Hello, baby. I'll be back soon. She picked up the phone and looked around. I'm already downstairs. I'll be up soon. After hanging up the phone, she exhaled and smiled awkwardly. Have we been here for a long time? I fell asleep. I was drunk. I didn't do anything strange, right? No, we just arrived. Bailey Yun was a little disappointed. I didn't do anything strange when I was drunk, right? He raised his eyebrows and smiled. You didn't do anything strange other than wanting to become a little swan and jump on Swan Lake. Ouch! Xia Dong covered her face in shame. I'm really not suitable for drinking. It's okay. I've seen a more exaggerated side of you. Bailey Yun smiled and patted her head. She was speechless. Thank you for your comfort. I'm even sadder after hearing it. He laughed delightedly. Her mouth twitched. I'll go up first. The dinner was great. Thank you. I'll pick you up tomorrow. We'll go to the ranch together. Okay. She got out of the car and waved at him. Be careful on the road. Xia Dong walked into the house. Xia Xiaobao was waiting at the entrance in cute Pikachu pajamas. He looked cool. Mom, tell me honestly, who was the man who sent you back downstairs? Xia Dong bent down and pinched his cheek. Children shouldn't ask so much about adult matters. He turned his face away coolly. Don't compare me to those little brats. I'm the man of our family. I have to be responsible for you. Our baby son is really amazing. Mommy is so touched. Xia Dong carried her son and rubbed her cheek against his. Xiao Bao pushed her away in disdain and puffed up his cheeks. Mom, don't think that everything will be fine just because you changed the topic. You haven't answered my question yet. Is that man chasing after you? How could that be? We're just ordinary friends. Xia Dong started to have a headache. Her child was too smart, and that was a problem. Other than Uncle Shen, I won't accept any other man as my father. Xiao Bao expressed his attitude seriously. Not even my biological father. Why? This was the first time Xia Dong heard her son mention his father. Because he's irresponsible. He's the one who abandoned the three of us. Xiao Bao's eyes were round, and his pink face was filled with anger. Awesome novel, Song Shu 566. Chapter 68. Xia Dong was speechless as she rubbed her son's hair. Baby, you've misunderstood your dad. He didn't abandon us. No. I wouldn't misunderstand him. He's the one who abandoned us. He saw it clearly. He was hugging another woman and laughing so happily. He even had a new son. It was that annoying guy, Bailey. This misunderstanding was huge. Xia Dong wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, she didn't say it. She didn't want the children to be involved in adult matters, and she didn't want her smart son to find out that Xiao Guai was sick. She'll just let Bailey Han take the blame for this one time. Xia Dong was wearing a blue and white riding suit with sheepskin boots. Her hair was tied up on top of her head, and she wore a cowboy hat. She looked valiant and very charming. Even Bailey Yun, who was used to seeing beautiful women, couldn't help but light up. Bailey Yun whistled frivolously. Xiaodong imitated him and looked him up and down. He was wearing a maroon riding suit and standing in front of a sports car. He looked handsome and unruly. She raised her eyebrows. Not bad. So you can be a man at times. Bailey Yun's face immediately darkened. I've always been a man. Xiaodong smiled but didn't say anything. She had an expression that said, I'm not going to explain. Bailey Yun's face darkened even more. Although they left early, it was already noon when they arrived at the ranch. The ranch was built on a wide lawn. In front of the White House, there was a large patch of grass. The car drove through the private driveway to the garage. Xiaodong happened to see Bailey Han and Su Yunqian standing side by side. They were talking about something with a smile on their faces. Xiaodong and Bailey Yun were the last to arrive. Xiao Tiansheng, Xiao Qifeng, and Su Jin and all brought female companions. Su Xingchen was Su Jin's female companion. She didn't expect to meet so many people who didn't want to see her again. Xiaodong felt like running away. Well, our last pair of guests have arrived. Please take a rest and then go to the stud farm to pick your favorite horse. As the host, Xiao Tiansheng was very enthusiastic to call the servants to serve everyone. When Bailey Han saw Xiaodong and Bailey Yun walking over side by side, he frowned slightly. Su Yunqian noticed the slight change in his expression. Han, isn't that Miss Xia? When did Yun change his girlfriend again? Bailey Han's face was indifferent as he said lightly, they are just ordinary friends. Su Yunqian clenched her fists and changed the topic with an elegant smile. Han, shall we go and choose a horse? There were a lot of fine horses in the ranch. Xiao Tiansheng asked the steward of the ranch, Abel, to sneak out the horses. Bailey Han chose a Juju-bred horse. It was tall and had a very moist coat. Han, look, that horse is so beautiful. Su Yunqian pointed at a white horse in surprise. I want it. Abel hurriedly said, Miss Su, that horse's temper is quite fierce. You should choose a more gentle pony. The white horse proudly raised its neck and stayed away from the other horses. It seemed that it disdained to be with them. It was obviously unruly. Bailey Han also didn't agree with her choice of horse. But it's really beautiful. I want it. Su Yunqian pulled Bailey Han's arm. Her beautiful eyes were full of expectation. Han, my riding skills are very good. Let me try, okay? Bailey Han patted the back of her hand and softened his voice. Yunqian Gigai, listen to me. If there is an accident, it's not a joke. Okay. Su Yunqian reluctantly looked away from the white horse. She looked around and finally chose the same Juju-bred horse as Bailey Han. The two horses were very close to each other. From time to time, they would rub their ears against each other. It was obvious that they were a loving couple. She chuckled. Han, look, they're just like us. They are also a couple. Bailey Han smiled and reached out to help her get on the horse. Hold the reins and watch your step. Su Yunqian agilely got on the horse and straightened her back. The white riding suit made her look more noble and elegant. She was like a noble goddess who couldn't be violated. She smiled. I haven't ridden for a long time. It feels so strange to suddenly sit on a horse. Let's go for a walk by the river. Bailey Han also got on the horse. He pulled the reins and walked side by side with her horse. Xiaodong was distressed at the moment. She was pregnant and couldn't ride a horse. She just wanted to pretend that she wasn't feeling well. She didn't expect Xiao Tiansheng to be so enthusiastic and give her a horse before she could find an excuse. Our heroine, look at this horse. Her name is Empress. It's the most beautiful horse in the stud farm. What do you think? Do you like it? Xiao Tiansheng led the white horse over. It was the horse that Su Yunqian liked. The white horse's fur was moist, and its eyes were bright. Xiaodong couldn't help but reach out and touch its neck. She's very beautiful. It matches her name very well. I once had such a beautiful horse. Xiao Tiansheng's eyes flashed with a strange light. He suddenly grinned. Xiaodong, Empress seems to like you very much. It had to be known that Empress was the most precious horse. She had a proud personality. It was the first time in history that she had tolerated a stranger like Xiaodong touching her. That's because I'm popular. Xiaodong's hands moved more gently. She combed Empress' hair and joked, "You're called Empress, and my horse is called Princess. Are you relatives?" Xiao Tiansheng was surprised to find that Empress took the initiative to rub her neck against Xiaodong's body. My God, am I seeing things? The proud Empress actually took the initiative to get close to someone else. Even I, the owner, have never received such treatment. Bai Liyun raised his eyebrows in amusement. How can you compare yourself to Xiaxia, who is loved by everyone and loved by everyone? You're obviously not on the same level. Xiao Tiansheng punched him in annoyance. Damn it. Will you die if you don't use your poisonous tongue once? Bai Liyun nimbly dodged and smiled mischievously. Yes, I'll suffocate to death. Xiao Tiansheng's mouth twitched. He was too lazy to pay attention to him. He said to Xiaodong, who was watching the show from the side, "Since Empress likes you so much, you two can be a couple." Empress rubbed against Xiaodong, as if urging her to make a decision. Xiaodong awkwardly touched her neck. Actually, I wanted to tell you that I'm not feeling well and can't ride a horse. Bai Liyun jumped up nervously. You're not feeling well? What's wrong? Do you want to see a doctor? In order to cover up the fact that she was pregnant, Xiaodong decided to embarrass herself. She blushed and said in a small voice, "It's not a big deal. Women have those few days every month." Bai Liyun's handsome face instantly turned red. Xiao Tianxing looked at his embarrassed expression, and his mouth twitched again. Finally, he said, "That's really unfortunate." Yeah, ha, ha. Xiaodong laughed dryly. Bai Liyun's face was still red. He coughed twice. Then, do you need that? No, I brought my own. I'm going to the washroom. You guys go ahead and have fun.
Don't worry about me.
Xiaodong was so embarrassed that she fled. After dawdling in the washroom for a long time, she patted her burning face and walked out. She bumped into Bai Liyun, who was pacing back and forth at the door. She pretended that nothing had happened and smiled calmly. Why are you here? Bai Liyun coughed awkwardly. Don't they say that women will feel pain when they do that? I was afraid that you would faint in the washroom. If you didn't come out, I would have rushed in. Xiaodong was speechless. It's not that bad. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. Let's go. Don't stand here.
It feels so strange.
Xiaodong wanted Bai Liyun to go play by himself, but he disagreed and insisted on accompanying her. She didn't want to dampen his spirits, so she held the Empress's hand and walked with him to the riverside to walk the horse. There was a wide lawn on the riverside, but there were also muddy areas that were difficult to walk on. They walked along the lawn to a quieter place. They tied the horse's reins to a tree and let the horse graze while they sat on the lawn to rest. Bai Liyun put his hands behind his head and leaned against the grass. His charming foxy eyes looked at Xiaodong. I've always wanted to ask you a question. What question? Xiaodong sat beside him and supported her head with one hand. Why did you come back? Xiaodong looked up at the white clouds in the sky and said lightly, My home is here. Bai Liyun propped his head up and stared at Xiaodong's face with a burning gaze. Is it because you can't bear to part with me? Xiaodong rolled her eyes. Bai Liyun, can you be more serious? I'm very serious. Can't you tell that I'm a very coquettish person deep down? Bai Liyun stroked his hair coquettishly and winked at her. Hurry up and admit it, Xia. Actually, you can't bear to part with me. Xiaodong held her forehead. Actually, your zodiac sign is a fox. He was always flirting and coquettish. Bai Liyun touched his chin and blinked his charming foxy eyes. A fox? That's a good name. This will be your exclusive nickname for me in the future, darling Xia. Who is going to save her? Bai Liyun rolled a few times on the grass and rolled in front of her. His handsome face suddenly leaned in front of her and the tip of his nose touched hers. His voice was low and bewitching. Xia, forget the past and start over with me, okay? Fox, you're too close. Xia Dong pushed his face away and smiled bitterly. I also want to forget the past and start over, but some things can't be changed. If Xiao Guai wasn't sick, she definitely wouldn't have had anything to do with Bailey's family. Bailey Yun's eyes darkened, and he pursed his thin lips. You came back for Xiao Yi? Xia Dong's body stiffened.
No.
He stroked her hair. That's good. Xiao Yi is the darling of our family. My grandma will definitely not allow you to take her away. She pursed her lips. I understand. As long as Xiao Yi was living well, she shouldn't have any other thoughts. Bailey Yun sighed deeply and took her into his arms when she wasn't paying attention. Since that's the case, what are you still worried about? Is it that hard to start over? Xia Dong didn't know how to answer him, so she didn't answer. She leaned in his arms and listened to his strong heartbeat. A part of her heart softened, and she said softly, Bailey Yun, thank you. He hugged her tightly. What are you thanking me for, She chuckled. Thank you for always being my friend and for jumping out to help me when I needed help. From an angle that she couldn't see, Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. So, after all that he had done, she still only treated him as a friend. But it couldn't be helped. Who asked him to fall in love with such an emotional, single-celled animal? One day, he would let her discover his feelings for her. Big brother Yun, big sister Xiao Xia, so you're here. Everyone's looking for you. A light voice came from not far away. Su Xingchen was wearing a fiery red equestrian outfit today. It added a bit of heroic spirit to her sweet self. She straightened her back and rode slowly towards Xia Dong and the others.
Come and see.
Hong Cha 866. Chapter 69. Bailey Yun let go of Xia Dong and pulled her up. He looked at Su Xingchen indifferently, as if he was unhappy with her arrival. When Xia Dong heard her call her Sister Xiao Xia, she knew that she already knew her identity and didn't want to have anything to do with her. She nodded politely. Su Xingchen realized that she wasn't welcome and playfully stuck out her tongue. Did I disturb you guys?
Sorry.
Xia Dong said indifferently. It's nothing. We were just about to go back. Su Xingchen smiled brightly. That's good. Sister Xiao Xia, is that white horse yours? It's so beautiful. I heard from Tianxing brother that the Empress is the best horse in the ranch. Let's have a competition to see, okay? Bailey Yun, who had been silent all this time, said impatiently, Didn't you say that they were looking for us? Then why aren't we going to meet up with them? Oh, that's right. Then let's have a competition later. Su Xingchen wasn't angry at all and cheerfully said. Bailey Yun ignored her and untied the horse's reins, handing it to Xia Dong. The two of them led the horse back. When they returned to the ranch, the workers of the ranch had already prepared the items needed for the bonfire party. Xiao Tianxing, Xiao Qifeng, Su Jinan, and Bailey Han were racing horses. Su Yunqian held a small flag and acted as the referee. The workers who had finished their work gathered to cheer for them, and the sound of laughter resounded through the grassland. Seeing Xia Dong leading the Empress over, Su Yunqian's eyes flashed with jealousy. She was just a cheap woman, but her life was so tough. She didn't die even after losing old K as a chess piece. She was really too hateful. Empress, oh Empress, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you just kick her to death? Her heart was raging with hatred, but the elegant smile on her face was appropriate. Her voice was soft. Yun, where did you guys go? You missed a wonderful competition. Bailey Yun shrugged indifferently. We just walked around. Who's in the lead? Of course it's Brother Han. Sitting on horseback, Su Xingchen took out a pair of binoculars to watch the competition. He shouted excitedly, Big Brother Han's equestrian skills are the best. Su Yunqian smiled and shook her head. Xingchen, be careful. Don't fall off the horse. Xia Dong didn't have binoculars, so she couldn't see the competition. She felt a little bored. Su Yunqian suddenly said, Miss Xia, when the men's competition is over, how about we women's teams have a competition too? Sure. I just mentioned this matter to Sister Xiao Xia. Su Xingchen was the first to chime in. The female companions brought by Xiao Tiansheng and Xiao Qifeng also had no objections. Everyone looked at Xia Dong and waited for her answer. Xia Dong narrowed her eyes. She knew that Su Yunqian wasn't as glamorous as she looked. She also knew that Su Yunqian hated her in her heart. She was so eager to invite her to compete because she wanted her to make a fool of herself. She chuckled. "Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I can't participate." Su Xingchen pouted. "What's the point of coming to the racecourse if you don't ride a horse?" "Yeah, it's rare for us to come here. It'll be more lively if we all play together," said the first female companion. The second female companion covered her mouth and laughed. "Miss Xia's body is too precious. Or is it that she doesn't want to play with us?" Su Yunqian smiled. "Since it's not convenient for Miss Xia, let's not make things difficult for her. Miss Xia, why don't you be our judge?" Xia Dong thought about it and finally agreed. Su Yunqian said again, "It's too boring to compete on the grass. Why don't we have a steeplechase?" Everyone was interested. "What kind of steeplechase?" Su Yunqian pointed in the direction of the forest. "I've asked Tianqing. There's a small path in the forest that can accommodate 2 people at most. There are also some fallen trees blocking the path. This will increase the difficulty of the competition. Of course, if you think it's dangerous, you can reject this suggestion." Su Xingchen clapped and cheered. "How interesting. I'll be the first to support it." Seeing that Su Xingchen had agreed, the 2 female companions were too embarrassed to reject. They gritted their teeth and braced themselves to agree. As the only male present, Bailey Yun frowned. "I don't agree. I think it's too dangerous." "Big brother Yun, I just went into the forest to take a look. Although the path is narrow, the trees are sparse. The difficulty isn't too high. As long as we're careful, there won't be any danger." Su Xingchen puffed up her cheeks and blinked her big eyes. "Or, do you think that us girls aren't as good as you guys, so you don't agree with us doing this?" Su Yunqian's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Yun, Xingchen is right. You can't look down on us. We've all specially learned horsemanship." The 4 girls were all daughters of famous families. They had dabbled in all kinds of swordsmanship and horsemanship. Bailey Yun shrugged. "All right, my good intentions are treated as ill intent. I won't care about you guys anymore. Do as you please." He glanced at Xia Dong in relief. Thankfully, Xia wasn't free and didn't have to mix with them. However, he didn't know that the moment Xia Dong agreed to be the referee, she had already been dragged into it. As a qualified referee, Xia Dong had to survey the track before the competition. Bailey Yun originally wanted to go with her, but Bailey Han and the other 3 men's competition had just ended. Xiao Tianqing said that he had missed the competition and had to be punished, so he was dragged away to drink as punishment. Xia, wait for me to come back." Before Bailey Yun was dragged away, he was still waving his arms and shouting. Su Xingchen snickered. "Big sister Xia, big brother Yun is so good to you. He can't bear to be separated from you for even a moment. How about Miss Xia wait a little longer? Wait for second young master to come back, then you guys can go together. I didn't think that the fickle second young master would have such a cute side." Xia Dong was embarrassed by their words and blushed. "All right, stop talking nonsense. We're just normal friends." Oh, so you're just normal friends. Then I still have a chance. Miss Xia, you're blushing." Xia Dong's mouth twitched. "Let's not delay the competition. I'll go survey the track first. You guys can gossip." Because it wasn't convenient for her to ride a horse, she spent a few minutes walking into the forest. According to their agreement, they traversed the entire forest. Sure enough, the path in the forest only allowed 2 horses to walk side by side. If they wanted to cut in, they could only pass through the trees. The trees weren't very dense, so technically speaking, it wasn't very difficult. There weren't many fallen trees blocking the path. After walking for about 10 minutes, they only encountered one. After walking for another 10 minutes, the path was blocked by another thick tree. This piece of wood seemed to have fallen for a long time. Some parts had already started to rot. There were many vines wrapped around it. The vines climbed up the tree next to it, forming a web-like barrier in the middle of the path. If they were to rush over on their horses and couldn't stop in time, they would definitely crash into the vines and be in danger. Xiaodong was very responsible and wanted to clear the vines away. She was glad that she had brought a dagger just in case. Using the dagger, she cut off the vines one by one and used her strength to pull them down from the tree next to her. The last vine was wrapped tightly around the tree trunk. Xiaodong gritted her teeth and pulled with all her strength, but the vine didn't budge at all. She looked up and saw that the lush leaves and branches of the vines were intertwined together, forming an oval shape. It looked like it was airtight. It was an arduous task to separate them. Harder, harder, harder. Xiaodong's feet rubbed a deep hole in the ground. Her hands were burning with pain. Finally, she felt the vines in her hands loosen. With a clatter, an oval-shaped object fell from the air. Wung, wung, wung. A swarm of densely packed objects flew out from the oval, flying towards Xiaodong. Xiaodong's expression changed. Hornets. Damn it, it was actually hornets. She actually poked a hornet's nest. Xiaodong ran forward with all her might, ignoring the branches and thorns. She sprained her ankle as she ran, but she didn't care. She endured the pain and continued to run forward. The loud buzzing sound behind her head was like a bell from hell, making her scalp numb. She ran fast, but the hornets were faster. When she was caught off guard, one or two of them had already bitten her exposed skin. She slapped a few of them away, but soon, more hornets surrounded her, and their sharp stingers fiercely stung her skin. Hiss, hiss. She was in so much pain that she almost cried. She broke a branch and waved it to hit the hornets. Her footsteps were also messed up and she deviated from the path. Suddenly, she slipped and her whole body rolled down the hill. This was a slope of about 50 degrees. It was covered with gravel and dead branches and leaves. Although it greatly cushioned the impact of rolling down, the trees were sparse. In her panic, Xiaodong couldn't grab any obstacles and rolled all the way down. Plop! Finally, she rolled to the foot of the hill. She gritted her teeth and turned over, avoiding the oncoming tree stump, and crashed into a pile of grass. Her whole body was in pain. Xiaodong was in so much pain that she was about to faint. Especially the part of her face that had been stung by the hornets, it was already swollen and pressing on her visual nerves. Her vision had begun to blur, and even breathing was painful. Her child. Would anything happen to him? Xiaodong turned sideways with difficulty to avoid pressing on her abdomen. She trembled and covered her abdomen with her hands. The pain, coupled with the toxins released by the hornets in her body, made her consciousness weaker and weaker. She wanted to call for help, but her voice was pitifully weak. Finally, she fainted weakly in the grass. At the ranch, Bailey Yin wanted to run away after being forced to drink a few glasses of wine, but Xiao Tiansheng and Su Jinan watched him closely, as if he was an enemy. Xiao Qifeng also joked, "What's wrong? Can't bear to leave your Xia? Fine, I admit defeat, okay?" Xia promised to be the judge for their female team. She wants to go explore the track. I don't feel safe leaving her alone. Don't stop me. Bailey Han looked indifferent. Track? Where's the track? It's in the woods opposite. They're going to have some kind of obstacle course. Bailey Yun seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. He smiled fawningly. Brother, help me put in a good word and ask them to let me go. Bailey Han did not say anything. Xiao Tianxing took the initiative to let go of Bailey Yun's arm and said, "Seeing that you're in such a hurry, how can we make things difficult for you? Hurry up and go. Don't let your Xia wait for too long." Tianxing, you're the best at critical moments. Bailey Yun threw him a seductive look. Xiao Tianxing shuddered in disgust. Spare me. Why are there only a few of you? Where's Xiaodong? Bailey Yun finally got away. He looked around and did not see Xiaodong. Su Yunqian said, Miss Xia said that she didn't want to delay the race, so she went to explore the track first. Bailey Yun was so anxious that he almost jumped. Why didn't any of you follow her? What if something happened? Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 70. The female companion was not convinced. We have a competition later, so of course we have to conserve our energy. How can we care about her? Selfish. Bai Liyun coldly snorted and snatched a horse. He leaped onto the horse's back and slapped the horses, but as he galloped towards the forest, he rode the horse all the way, passing by the place where Xia Dong was tidying up the vines. The horse's hooves trampled over the tattered beehive. He exited the woods from the other end, but he still did not see Xia Dong. Something must have happened. Bai Liyun's heart was beating wildly. He returned to the woods, slowed down, and carefully retraced the path he came from. He held the reins with both hands, looked around, and called out Xia Dong's name loudly. However, there was no response. He could only hear the birds chirping in the woods. Although the woods were not big, they were covered with dead branches, fallen leaves, and thorns, making it very difficult to find someone. He finally stopped at the place where Xia Dong was tidying up the vines. The vines were cut off neatly, and it was obvious that it was man-made. Xia Dong must have stopped here. Xia Xia, Xia Xia. Bai Liyun jumped off the horse and called out her name all around. He anxiously searched for her as he took out his cell phone to contact Xiao Tiansheng. Tiansheng, something happened to Xia Xia. Hurry up and bring some people over. He had already searched the surroundings of the trail but could not find anyone. He became more and more nervous, and his hand holding the cell phone trembled slightly. He began to deviate from the path and walked towards the hillside. He stood on the edge of the cliff and looked down. The thorns and trees blocked his view, and he could not see anything. The uneasiness in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Finally, he found a dagger in the grass by the cliff. It's Xia Xia's dagger. She must be at the bottom of the hill. Bai Liyun became even more anxious and rushed down the hillside. Because he was so fast, he stumbled several times and almost fell to the ground. He grabbed the weeds under him to stop himself from tumbling. Gravel rolled down the hillside with his violent movements, and some even hit Xia Dong's body. Xia Xia. Bai Liyun finally saw Xia Dong lying on her side on the ground. His heart was in his throat. He almost crawled over to her and anxiously turned her body over. Xia Xia, what happened to you? Bai Liyun's expression changed when he saw her face. Her originally beautiful cheeks were now swollen like steamed buns, and her snow-white neck was covered with small scars. Fortunately, her body was still warm, and she was still breathing. Bai Liyun forcefully tightened his arms and used his broad chest to firmly imprison her. His magnetic voice carried a hurried gasp as he said, "Bad girl, you almost scared me to death." Her soft body leaned against his chest and did not respond at all. He rubbed his forehead against her soft hair. Xia Xia, cheer up. I'll get you out of here right away. He carried her on his back and climbed up the hillside with difficulty. Bai Liyun grabbed the branches and vines with one hand and tightly held Xia Dong on his back with the other. He climbed up with 3 sliding steps. It only took him a few seconds to rush down the hillside, but it took him almost 15 minutes to climb up. When he climbed up in a sorry state, Xiao Tiansheng and the others had also arrived on horseback. When Bai Liyun dragged Xia Dong up with difficulty, Xiao Tiansheng jumped off his horse and rushed up to help him hold Xia Dong back. Hey, Abel, hurry up and call the doctor. Xiao Qifeng was still on horseback and took out his phone to contact Abel, who was guarding the ranch. Looking at Xia Dong's pitiful face, Bai Liyun tightened his grip on the reins. His knuckles gradually turned white, but there was no expression on his face. He just sat on the horse's back without saying a word. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Xiao Tiansheng helped Bai Liyun help Xia Dong onto the horse's back. Bai Liyun sat behind Xia Dong and hugged her tightly in his arms as they returned to the ranch. Bai Liyun carried Xia Dong and ran into the room that had been prepared. Abel led an old doctor in his 50s or 60s in. Bailey's second young master. This is Dr. Li. Dr. Li, this is Bailey's second young master. Bai Liyun hurriedly stepped aside. Dr. Li, I'll have to trouble you to examine her. Dr. Li nodded. Second young master, please go out first and call a girl in. I will examine her later and need her help. Bailey Yun hurriedly said, "Abel, please call a maid in." The maid quickly went in. Bailey Yun immediately went to wash his face and change his clothes. When he returned to the guest room, Dr. Lee had already finished the examination. "This miss is fine, but she looks seriously injured. Doctor, please examine her carefully again." Dr. Lee was not displeased at all. He stroked his beard and patiently analyzed. "She is wearing riding clothes and is wrapped tightly. There are only a few abrasions on the back of her hands and a few places where she was hit by gravel. As for her face, she was only stung by a wasp. Although it hurts, it is not serious. Once the wasp venom is removed, she will be better soon." Bailey Yun's worried heart finally relaxed. "When will she wake up?" "Tomorrow. I have already removed the wasp venom for her. In 2 or 3 days, the swelling on her face will disappear. I plan to send her to the hospital and take an X-ray. Will it be safer?" "An X-ray must be taken, but she is now in a coma and is not suitable to move around. Don't worry, she is fine." "Well, I respect your opinion. Dr. Lee, sorry to trouble you. Second young master, you are too polite. I will come to see her tomorrow. Don't worry." After sending Dr. Lee away, Bailey Yun returned to the guest room to take care of Xia Dong. Soon, Su Yunqian and Su Xingqian came over. Su Xingqian looked guilty and said that he should have followed Xia Dong to check the track. Su Yunqian comforted Bailey Yun not to worry. Bailey Yun's mind was on Xia Dong, so he only said a few words of courtesy. They also knew that it was not the right time, so they said a few more words of comfort and left. Xiao Tiansheng and the others also came. Xiao Tiansheng asked Bailey Yun to rest and asked the servants to take care of Xia Dong, but Bailey Yun refused. Bailey Han glanced indifferently at Xia Dong, who was lying on the bed, and said indifferently, "Let's cancel tonight's bonfire party." Bailey Yun pursed his lips. "Let's hold it as usual. If Xia wakes up and finds out that the bonfire party was cancelled because of her, she will feel uneasy." Bailey Han glanced at him and did not say anything, but his eyes darkened. So the bonfire party was held as usual. Bailey Yun stayed by Xia Dong's side. In the middle of the night, she suddenly groaned in pain. Her brows were tightly knitted, and she tossed and turned in bed. She slept very restlessly. Her face was red, and her lips were a little dry. Bailey Yun touched her forehead. It was very hot. She had a fever. He immediately ran downstairs to the kitchen to get ice. When he went upstairs, Bailey Han, who lived on the same floor, came out in his pajamas. "What's wrong?" Bailey Yun paused. Xia has a fever." Bailey Han frowned. "Ask Dr. Lee to come and see her." "Why are you waking her up in the middle of the night? Or, do you have a better idea?" "I'll ask the servants to get him." Bailey Yun stuffed the ice into his hand. "Brother, help me look after Xia." Bailey Yun rushed downstairs, and Bailey Han entered the guest room with the ice. He saw the person lying on the bed at a glance. Her face was so swollen that it was almost impossible to recognize her original face. Her face was flushed, and her brows were tightly knitted. She was sleeping very restlessly. He pursed his lips and put the ice wrapped in a towel on her forehead. Feeling the cold air, her furrowed brows gradually relaxed. When his fingertips touched her burning skin, he immediately retracted his fingers as if he had been electrocuted. A feeling of self-loathing grew in his heart. She had already said that she wanted to draw a line between them, so why should he care so much about her? He stood up abruptly and left the guest room resolutely. When Bailey Yun returned to the guest room, there was only Xia Dong in the room with ice on her forehead. A few minutes later, Dr. Lee came over with a medical kit. "Dr. Lee, it's great that you're here. Xia has a fever. I don't know if she has an internal injury. Young Master Tingrui, don't worry.
Bring me some more ice.
I'll examine her." Bailey Yun went downstairs to get the ice. Dr. Lee examined Xia Dong and muttered, "So, she has a cold. No wonder she has a fever. Dr. Lee, how is she?" Bailey Yun simply came up with a bucket of ice. "She probably caught a cold. She has a cold, but it's not a big deal. I gave her a bottle of saline and prescribed some cold medicine. Let her take it when she wakes up. Dr. Lee took out a few medicine bottles from the medical kit and put them on the table. There are pills and liquid medicine in here. Take them every 4 hours. She has to take them at night?
Yes.
She will recover faster this way. Dr. Lee carried the medical kit. I'll come to see her after breakfast tomorrow morning. Bailey Yin walked him to the door. Dr. Lee, I'm sorry to disturb your rest. It's okay, young Master Tingrui. This miss must be your girlfriend. She is very lucky to have you taking care of her so carefully. I wished she was his girlfriend. What a pity. Take good care of her. See you tomorrow. After nearly an hour, the saline drip was finished. Bailey Yin removed the needle for her and took her temperature. It had dropped a lot. Only then did he feel relieved. When Xia Dong woke up, she felt pain on her face and her arm was heavy. She turned her head painfully and found a furry head on her arm. No wonder it was heavy. She had just pulled her arm away when the furry head suddenly lifted up, revealing a handsome face and a slightly hoarse voice unique to the morning. You're awake. Do you feel any discomfort? I want to drink water. Xia Dong just opened her mouth, and her face was pulled until it was painful. She touched her face. It was swollen and fat. It must be as ugly as a pig's head. Suddenly, she remembered something and her hand fell to her abdomen. The child. What's wrong? Is your stomach hurting? Bailey Yin asked nervously.
How should she ask?
Did she have a miscarriage? Was the child still there? No. She couldn't let anyone know about her pregnancy. Xia Dong's face turned pale. She bit her lip and changed the way she asked, Was I seriously injured yesterday? Did I bleed? No, the doctor said you only suffered some superficial injuries. It's nothing serious. He thought she was worried about the injuries on her face, so he touched her cheek gently and chuckled. The injuries on your face are fine. In 2 or 3 days, you will recover your beauty. That's good. Xia Dong let out a long breath. This should mean that the child was safe. Attention, Hong Cha 866. Chapter 71. You've caught a cold. Come, Gigai, take the medicine. Bailey Yin poured some water and handed the pill to her. Xia Dong frowned and swallowed the pill. She drank a few mouthfuls of water and returned the cup to him. Looking at his tired face, she felt touched and warm. Fox, did you take care of me for the whole night again? Who asked me to be your friend? If I don't take care of you, who will? Bai Lian couldn't stand it when she looked at him with her wet eyes. He really wanted to pull her into his embrace. He reached out his large palm and rubbed her messy hair. You rascal! Why are you trying to be brave? Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Xia Dong smiled. I'm sorry. I didn't know I would be so unlucky. I actually poked a hornet's nest. In the end, I was chased by the hornet and accidentally rolled down the hill. You actually poked a hornet's nest. Bailey Yin didn't know whether to be angry or amused. The corner of his mouth twitched for a long time. In the end, he sighed. Liking her was destined to be a mess. He should have accepted his fate a long time ago, shouldn't he? At 8:00 in the morning, Dr. Lee came over for a checkup. Your fever has gone down. Take the medicine for 2 more days, and you'll be as good as new. Miss Xia, you have to avoid spicy food for the next few days. Otherwise, there will be scars on your face. I'll be careful. Thank you, Dr. Lee. You're welcome, Miss Xia. Second young master is a very competent boyfriend. You have to cherish him. When Dr. Lee said this, Xiao Tianxing and a large group of people came to visit Xia Dong. Everyone looked at the two of them ambiguously, as if they had done something shameful. Xiao Tianxing supported his chin with his right hand and coughed. There was a suppressed smile in his voice. Xia Dong, Ayun took care of you for the whole night. His feelings for you can be seen by heaven and earth. Xia Dong was slightly embarrassed. Go away, what are you doing here? Bailey Yun punched him angrily. Su Yunqian smiled. Miss Xia, when you were injured, we were all very worried. Fortunately, you are fine. Thank you for your concern, everyone. I'm fine now. I'm sorry if I've disturbed everyone's mood. Xia Dong politely looked at the crowd one by one. She found that Bailey Han was not among them. That was good. She did not have to face him. Xiao Tianxing raised his eyebrows. Why are you being so polite? Just stay here and recuperate. When you recover, I want to have a competition with you. I want to see how good your writing skills are. I accept your challenge. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely compete with you. After all, Xia Dong had just woken up. After saying a few words, she showed signs of fatigue. Everyone could see that, so they all bid her farewell and let her have a good rest. Xia Dong said to Bailey Yun, "Because of me, you haven't rested for the whole night. You must be very tired. I have servants here to take care of you. Go back to your room and rest first." Bailey Yun nodded and pulled the blanket over her. He instructed the servant, "Don't forget to give Miss Xia her medicine on time." "Got it, second young master." After Bailey Yun left, Xia Dong said that she was hungry and wanted to eat porridge. She sent the servant away and then called home. She was afraid that the children would be worried, so she only said that she had caught a cold. She cheered up and said a few words to them. When she heard the servant knocking on the door, she hung up. On Sunday afternoon, the guests left one after another because they had to work the next day. Bailey Han and Su Yunqian also left. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Han did not look at her again. Xiao Tianxing was a hands-off boss, so he had no pressure at work. He tried his best to persuade Xia Dong to stay at the ranch to recuperate, but Xia Dong did not want to disturb him anymore. Moreover, she did not want the children to worry, so she went home under the escort of Bailey Yun. Bailey Yun insisted on sending her to the door. He stayed in the living room of her house and instantly turned into an old mother. He nagged her a lot about what she should eat and what she should not eat. Fortunately, most of the swelling on her face had disappeared, so Xia Dong did not cause a large-scale panic when she got home. However, she was still bombarded by Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai. "Mommy, what's with the wound on your face? Who was that handsome uncle just now? Is he your boyfriend? Mom, tell me the truth. You didn't come home at night for the past 2 days, and you even made your head look like a pig's head. What happened?" Xia Dong pinched the two little buns' faces. "Mommy is fine. I was just kissed by 2 wasps." Xia Xiao Guai. "Oh ah. So the wasp's kiss was so scary." Xia Xiaobao. Oh. Mom. You idiot. Xia Xiaobao was deeply ashamed of having such a careless mother. He wiggled his little butt and went back to his room. After rummaging for a long time, he wiggled his little butt and came out again. He stuffed an ointment into Xia Dong's hand and raised his chin coolly. "This ointment, apply it externally 3 times a day. It won't leave any scars. I don't tell ordinary people." Xia Dong was instantly embarrassed. She took the ointment and saw that it was written in Japanese. "Son, where did you get this ointment?" "I stole it from Uncle Shun." She knew it. No matter what, the ointment was quite effective. When she got up the next morning, the redness and swelling on her face had miraculously disappeared. Her pig-headed face was as beautiful as before. She had taken the entire morning off to go to the hospital for a pregnancy test. She wondered if that thrilling experience had affected the child. This was the first time she had done a pregnancy test since she was pregnant. Lying on the hospital bed, she felt a little complicated. "Doctor, how is my child? Is it healthy?" The doctor pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. "Miss Xia, you're not pregnant." "What?" Xia Dong was so agitated that she jumped up from the hospital bed. "That's impossible. I used the pregnancy test kit, and it showed that I'm pregnant." "Doctor, please take a closer look." The doctor sighed. "Miss Xia, I've already checked very carefully. You're really not pregnant. As for the pregnancy test kit, it might have expired, so it's not accurate. Then it's already been more than a month. My period hasn't come yet, and I've already started vomiting. How do you explain that?" "That's just a psychological effect. You really want a child, so your psychological desire has played a role in hinting at your body, showing the symptoms of a fake pregnancy." Xia Dong didn't know how she walked out of the hospital. The doctor's words echoed in her mind over and over again. She wasn't pregnant. She wasn't pregnant. She wanted to laugh out loud. God, you're too good at making fun of people. Why wasn't she pregnant, even though she had worked so hard? If she wasn't pregnant, what would happen to her Xiao Guai? Xia Dong grabbed her hair in frustration. What was more frightening was that she thought she was pregnant and purposely did things to make Bailey Han feel disgusted. She deliberately drew a line between them. Now that she knew she wasn't pregnant, she wanted to get close to him again. Based on how disgusted he was with her, was it still possible? Xia Dong sat on the bench in the garden in a daze. She didn't even notice that her phone was ringing. It wasn't until a passerby beside her reminded her that she picked up the phone dejectedly. Hello. Xia Xia? A man's deep and magnetic voice came from the phone. Are you unhappy? Hearing the familiar voice, Xia Dong's nose couldn't help but feel sour. She tried hard to suppress the urge to cry and gently moved the corners of her mouth. Brother Shen. Mika Kito's voice softened. Xia Xia, tell me, did something happen? Xia Dong pinched her palms with her fingers and slowly exhaled. She tried hard to make her voice sound normal. No, Brother Shen. I'm fine. The children are fine too. On the other end of the phone, Mika Kito frowned. He could tell that Xia Xia was in low spirits. However, since she didn't want to admit it, he didn't want to force her. After a pause, he said gently, Xia Xia, I could have flown to China to accompany you this week, but something happened with your grandfather. He asked me to go over and deal with it. It might take half a month. Xia Dong had calmed down and said with concern, Is Godfather okay? Is it serious? Mika Kito comforted her.
Grandpa is fine.
It's one of his subordinates who got into trouble. It seems that another family is targeting him. I'll have to go over and investigate to know the details. Xia Dong was still very worried. Brother Shen, I know that you and Godfather are very powerful, but please take care of yourselves. Don't make me and the babies worry, okay? Don't worry. We'll be fine. Xia Xia, I miss you and the babies very much. Mika Kito's voice was low and mellow like fine wine with a hint of drunkenness. Xia Dong listened to his soothing voice and seemed to be intoxicated by the gentle wind. Her worries gradually dissipated. Her bright eyes curved into beautiful crescents and the corners of her lips curled up. She said softly, Brother Shen, I miss you too. Xia Dong could not see that Mika Kito, who was far away in Japan, had a gentle smile on his face because of her words. His slender fingers stroked Xia Dong's photo, and he chuckled softly. Xia Xia, wait for me. I'll come to China to accompany you in half a month. Okay? You have to protect yourself. Don't let yourself get hurt. Also, no matter how busy you are, you can't forget to eat and you can't drink. You know that your stomach is not well, but you still like to drink. You men are so annoying. Xia Dong nagged at Mika Kito. The smile on his face grew brighter and brighter, scaring the hell out of his subordinate, who came in to call him for a meeting. I've said so much. Do you remember it all? Xia Dong's mouth was dry from talking. She was very dissatisfied when she realized that the person on the other end of the phone only gave a perfunctory okay. I'm listening very attentively. Mika Kito's voice was full of laughter. If I said that all my attention was on your voice, but I didn't remember a single word of what you said, would you repeat it? Brother Shen. Xia Dong called his name angrily. Mika Kito could almost imagine how cute Xia Dong's delicate face would be when she was angry. He could not help but laugh out loud. Xia Dong was speechless at this careless man. She said angrily, Brother Shen, if you continue to be so perfunctory and let your guard down, I'll make you recite everything I said. Mika Kito held back his laughter. I won't tease you anymore. I've remembered everything. Really? Xia Dong could not help but laugh. Okay, that's good. You must be very busy. I heard Takeda knocking on the door to call you for a meeting. Hurry up and go to the meeting. Although you're the boss, you can't let them wait for too long. Okay?
Take care.
When Baitang Shun hung up the phone, there was still a smile on his face. When he raised his head to look at Ueda, who was waiting at the door, his expression had turned cold. It was as if the smiling man just now was just Ueda's imagination.
Come and see.
Hong Cha 866. Chapter 72. Xiaodong hung up the phone and began to think about her next move. Mika Keto would arrive in China in half a month. If he found out that she wanted to use his seed or steal it to save Xiaoguai, he would definitely not agree. So, Xiaodong had better deal with Bailey Han before he came to China. But how could she deal with him? Xiaodong wanted to bang her head against the wall. The evils she brought upon herself were the hardest to bear. How could she have been so ruthless in the past? Bailey Han must have completely abandoned her. When they were at the ranch, he did not even look at her. Even when she was injured, he did not say a word. After thinking about it for a long time, she could only come to one conclusion. She had to be thick-skinned. The first thick-skinned tactic was to pester him. Scene 1. Hello, who is this? Mr. Bailey, hello, I am Xiaodong. Beep, 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 beep. Scene 2. Xiaodong sent the latest issue of the magazine to Bailey Han. Inside the box, she even put a handmade card to express her gratitude to him as a business partner. In the end, Bailey Han's secretary called her. Miss Xia, the president asked you to send the sample magazine to the advertising department in the future. He also asked you to stop sending him strange things. Xiaodong fell to the ground. Scene 3. Xiaodong found out from Bailey Yun that Bailey Han was having a gathering with a few old friends at Charm Bar. So, she dressed up so seductively that she almost could not recognize herself after changing her appearance. She purposely walked around Charm Bar in an attempt to attract his attention. When she finally saw him alone, she quickly went up to him and winked seductively. Handsome, are you interested in having a drink with me? However, he pushed her away and looked at her with disdain. You're too dirty. I'm not interested. Xiaodong's face was covered in blood. Xiaodong had been defeated repeatedly. She had long been thick-skinned. As long as there was a collaboration with Sheng Hao Group, she would dress up beautifully. From time to time, she would appear in front of Bailey Han and create a lot of coincidental encounters. However, he did not even look at her. Just like that, a week passed. Xiaodong felt deeply defeated. He curled up on the sofa at home and licked his wounds. Xia Xiaoguai's soft little body leaned over. Mommy, what's wrong? You don't look happy. Xiaodong rubbed her daughter's soft hair.
Mommy is fine.
I'm just a little tired. Xia Xiaobao's beautiful black eyes flashed. He had long noticed that his mother was a little strange recently. From time to time, she would dress up beautifully and go out in high spirits. However, she would come back dejectedly. He had secretly followed her a few times and discovered her secret. However, his mother was unwilling to tell him, so he could only pretend not to know. He touched his little chin, and his bright eyes turned. He said crisply, Mom, I heard that Bailey Han likes to explore and climb mountains. Xiaodong was stunned. Bailey Han liked to explore and climb mountains? Wait a minute. If he really liked it, then wouldn't she have more opportunities to get close to him? Her eyes lit up, and she snorted on her son's head. Son, where did you hear that?
Why don't I know about it?
Xia Xiaobao puffed up his cheeks, and his eyes flashed. Of course, I heard it from Bailey Yi. Really? She was a little doubtful. Aren't you and Bailey Yi sworn enemies? He put his hands behind his back and raised his little chin arrogantly. That's why I have to get to know him better. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Xiaodong slapped her forehead. Why was she so stupid? If she wanted to get close to Bailey Han, she had to understand his preferences and cater to his interests. Thus, the second tactic of being thick-skinned began, cater to his interests. Xiaodong found a private detective and asked them to help investigate Bailey Han's preferences. The next day, the private detective cried and said that he could not continue the investigation because his men were kidnapped and beaten up by several mysterious people during the investigation. They cried and said that Bailey's family was too powerful and they could not afford to offend them. Xiaodong had no choice but to ask Bailey Yun. Bailey Yun asked suspiciously, Xia Xia, You've been asking a lot about my brother recently. Are you interested in him? Xiaodong laughed dryly.
How can that be?
Our magazine is cooperating with Sheng Hao Group. The magazine is planning to hold an event and invite all partners to attend. We have to understand the partners in advance. I'm doing this for work. Bailey Yun did not believe her. Do you still need to understand their interests and preferences? Xiaodong pretended to be unhappy and turned her head. It's fine if you don't want to help me. Why are you saying so much? Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. When did I say that I won't help you? I'm just worried. Xiaodong looked serious and serious. Do you think it's possible between Bailey Han and me? I've never thought of having feelings for him. Bailey Yun raised his hand in surrender and poked her arm with his elbow. Okay. I believe you. Don't be angry. I'll tell you everything. Xiaodong snorted and deliberately pretended to be pretentious. But I don't want to hear it anymore. Don't. I really want to confide in you. Can you be kind and listen to me about my brother's interests and hobbies? Bailey Yun leaned in front of her and looked at her pitifully with his long and narrow foxy eyes. Xiaodong held back his laughter. All right then. Since you're so enthusiastic, I'll reluctantly listen to you. Bai Liyun's eyes were full of smiles. He touched his delicate chin and said, Don't be fooled by my brother's cold and aloof appearance. He is a sports expert. Racing and riding are child's play to him. Xiaodong leaned on the armrest of the sofa and asked tentatively, since he likes sports so much, does he also like to climb mountains and explore things? Bailey Yun rubbed her soft hair. You're right. I heard that when he was 16, he lived alone on a deserted island with a backpack for a month. My grandmother and aunt were almost scared to death. Xiaodong frowned. An adventure on a deserted island? It was too difficult to carry out. I heard that he's become interested in plants again recently. Bailey Yun's lips curved into a sarcastic smile. Grandma and Grandpa have always been proud of him. He's really good. He's been my role model since I was young. Xiaodong keenly sensed the loneliness in his tone. She secretly held his hand. Fox, you're very good too. Bailey Yun was stunned. Then, the corners of his eyes curved and he smiled. This was the first time that someone praised Bailey Han while seeing his excellence. Suddenly, Bai Liyun raised his eyebrows and mischievously dragged Xiaodong, who was completely unprepared, to the ground. The two of them rolled around on the soft and thick carpet. Fox you. Before Xiaodong could finish speaking, Bailey Yun had already pulled her into his arms. He rubbed his chin against her soft hair and said with a smile, Xia, you really make me happy. Your hand. Xiaodong gritted her teeth. Bai Liyun lowered his head and found that his large hand had precisely pressed against a certain someone's chest. Ahem, it was a habit. Xiaodong was very angry. She had forgotten that someone was a perverted fox. Bailey Yun calmly withdrew his hand and flipped his messy blonde hair. There was a confused expression on his handsome face. What just happened? Xiaodong wanted to pounce on him and bite him to death. Forget it. I'll just kill him with my eyes. Under her extremely lethal gaze, Bai Liyun was defeated. He coughed and generously opened his arms. What happened just now was purely an accident. Why don't you touch me back? Get lost. Bai Liyun brushed the hair in front of his forehead and smiled frivolously. You're the one who didn't want it. Don't regret it. There are so many people lining up to touch it. I didn't even give them a chance. Xiaodong was speechless. Although Xiaodong was very angry that her chest had been attacked, she had gained a lot of useful information. When she found out that Bailey Han had been interested in plants recently, she didn't sleep in the middle of the night and searched for a lot of information. She came up with a detailed plan to steal the seeds. The next day, Bailey Han received an email from a geographical magazine. It said that an extremely rare orchid had been found in a forest. The email even included photos of the orchid and the scenery of the forest. It just so happened that he didn't have any plans for the weekend. Bailey Han was also very interested in orchids, so he decided to go to the forest to investigate. The photos in the email were actually downloaded by Xiaodong from the internet. She had already drafted the content of the email and asked a friend to help her send it to Bailey Han. Early on Saturday morning, Xia Dong prepared a series of supplies and waited on the road that Bailey Han had to pass. Bailey Han drove out of the city and into the suburbs. After driving for more than half an hour, he saw a white BMW parked on the side of the road in front of him. He didn't pay it any attention and continued to drive leisurely. Unexpectedly, a figure suddenly came out from under the BMW and rushed to the middle of the road with both hands raised. "Stop the car! Stop the car!" Bailey Han slammed on the brakes. Screech! The car stopped 2 steps away from Xia Dong. "You don't want to live anymore." Bailey Han jumped out of the car with an ashen face and strode in front of her. He wanted to strangle this idiot. "Do you know how dangerous it is to suddenly rush off the road?" Xia Dong seemed to be scared out of her wits. Her face was pale and she stuttered. "I didn't do it on purpose." Bailey Han's sharp eyes swept over her and he looked very impatient. "What's the matter?" Xia Dong shrank her neck and pointed at her BMW. "My car broke down, and I want to find someone to help." Bailey Han frowned, and his whole body emitted a cold aura. "Why are you in this wilderness?" Xia Dong was unconvinced. "Aren't you here too?" "Why can't I be here?" he sneered. "Since you don't want to say, then stay here with your car and wait for the next person to pass by." Don't. Xia Dong hurriedly pulled him back and said hurriedly, "I'm on vacation at Qixia Mountain." Qixia Mountain was also Bailey Han's destination. He narrowed his eyes and looked at her face that had been exposed to the sun. It was red and sweaty. He said sarcastically, "Another coincidence?" Xia Dong looked surprised. "You're going to Qixia Mountain too? Can you give me a ride?" He brushed her hand away. "Stop acting. I won't believe you again." He didn't look at her and turned to leave. Xia Dong bit her lip. "Bailey Han, stop right there." Bailey Han acted as if he didn't hear her and opened the car door. Xia Dong made up her mind and pounced forward, hugging the car door tightly. Her eyes were filled with grief and helplessness, like a puppy that had been abandoned by its owner. Her eyes were watery and pitiful. "Bailey Han, I'm begging you. Can you take me away? This is the wilderness. What if I meet some bad people?" Bailey Han frowned and said coldly, "Let go." Xia Dong quickly grabbed his arm and pestered him endlessly. "I won't let go, I won't let go." "Bailey Han, you're not even willing to save a woman when she's in danger. Are you still a man?" Beauty novel, Hong Cha 866. Chapter 73. The veins on Bailey Han's forehead began to throb. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words. "Aren't you fine now?" "I'm fine now, but after you leave, I might meet a psychopathic murderer or a serial killer. I might even meet a beast that comes down the mountain to hunt for food." Xia Dong grabbed his arm and refused to let go. "You're thinking too much." Bailey Han tried hard to suppress the urge to throw her away, his temples throbbing. "Bailey Han, I beg you, don't leave me, okay? I'm so scared." Seeing that the first move didn't work, Xia Dong changed to another one. She pinched his butt hard, and tears fell from her big wet eyes. Her butterfly wing-like eyelashes trembled slightly. She bit her red lips and her tear-stained face seemed to be telling him how cruel he was. He knew that she was acting, but his heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. Damn it, this woman could always easily control his emotions. Bailey Han angrily punched the steering wheel, his deep voice mixed with anger. "Get in the car." Xia Dong smiled through her tears and flattered, "I knew that you wouldn't leave me behind." "Bailey Han, you're really a good person." Bailey Han snorted and ignored her. She didn't mind at all and showed a bright smile. She cheerfully opened the car door and sat beside him, chattering about her tragic experience. "Yesterday, I received an email from the Geographic magazine saying that they found a precious orchid in Qixia Mountain, so I wanted to explore the treasure. I didn't expect the car to break down here. I called the towing company, but they said that it would take more than an hour to get here." Bailey Han's face was fierce, and he didn't say a word. She seemed to have thought of something and said with a smile, "But don't worry, I won't make you wait with me for an hour." I've already talked to them, and they'll tow my car away directly. Bailey Han still ignored her. The corners of his lips were tightly pressed together as he started the car. Xiaodong knew that he was still angry, so she tactfully shut her mouth. The air pressure in the car was low. The car drove very fast. After driving for nearly 2 hours, they finally arrived at their destination. Qixia Mountain was a tourist area. It had one main peak and 2 side peaks. The main peak was well developed for tourism, while the 2 side peaks did not have large-scale tourism. They maintained a relatively primitive state. Only a few backpackers and explorers went there. Bailey Han chose one of the side peaks and parked the car in the parking lot at the foot of the mountain. He looked at Xiaodong expressionlessly. Go to the main peak from here by yourself. Xiaodong shrugged. There are so many tourists on the main peak. It's crowded and noisy. I'm sure I won't be able to find any orchids. I'll go to the side peak too. Bailey Han said coldly, Don't drag me down.
She grinned.
Don't look down on me. I'm not that incompetent. He raised his eyebrows and did not say anything else. He took out his backpack from the trunk and led the way into the mountain. Xiaodong hurriedly took out her backpack from the back seat and followed him. Orchids usually grew on the walls of deep mountains and deep valleys. They were places where people rarely went. Bailey Han was obviously very familiar with the growing habits of orchids. He purposely chose secluded paths. Actually, he still had a dark thought in his heart. He wanted to force Xiaodong to give up on his own accord and stop following him. However, during the more than an hour of climbing, Xiaodong did not even make a sound. She gritted her teeth and followed behind him. Her beautiful cheeks were red, and her forehead was covered with sweat. The huge backpack on her back seemed to be about to crush her, but she did not complain about being tired. Bailey Han looked back and saw her like this. He could not help but slow down and handed her a bottle of water with a sullen face. Thank you. She took the bottle of water and smiled brightly. She was more charming than a spring flower, but her cheeks were abnormally red. Bailey Han could not help but look even worse. Soon it was evening. Bailey Han chose a flat lawn, took out a tent from his backpack, and set it up quickly. Xiaodong's ability to do things was much worse. After fiddling for a long time, the tent was still a ball of cloth. Bailey Han frowned and took the tools from her hand. Thank you. She scratched her hair and volunteered. I'll start the fire and prepare dinner. She gathered some dry wood and started the fire. She took out 5 to 6 food boxes from her backpack and a tablecloth. She spread the food boxes on the grass, opened them, and put them on the tablecloth. There were drumsticks, lamb chops, beef steak, pork chop, chicken fillet, and fruit and vegetable salad. I made these myself. Try them. She eagerly handed him a pair of sanitary chopsticks. Bailey Han picked up the chopsticks and put a piece of chicken fillet into his mouth. How is it? She looked at him with sparkling eyes full of expectation. He hesitated for a moment. It's not bad. It was actually very delicious. She smiled brightly. That's good. Wait a moment. I also brought sour pear soup. She searched in her backpack for a long time and took out a thermos flask. She poured a full cup and carefully put it in front of him. She smiled brightly. It's sour. It's cooling and appetizing. Drink more. Her smile was so warm that it made Bailey Han feel a little nervous. He hesitated for a moment and took the cup. She looked at him expectantly and shouted in her heart, Drink it, drink it. She had added something to the sour pear soup. Bailey Han brought the cup of water to his lips. Just as he was about to drink it, he heard a huff and puff, accompanied by the sound of running at high speed. He raised his head abruptly and saw a black wild boar dashing towards him at high speed. He jumped up from the ground reflexively and threw away the cup in his hand. He grabbed Xiaodong's wrist and retreated. Xiaodong was anxious to protect the thermos flask. She reached out to grab it, but Bailey Han pulled her over and scolded her loudly. Why are you still caring about that? Hurry up and leave. The moment he pulled her away, the wild boar crazily rushed to where they were sitting and trampled the food all over the place. Xia Dong looked at the thermos flask with pain. The bastard wild boar was still using its long mouth to dig into the sour pear soup, making slurping sounds as it drank. You bastard, I'm going to kill you. Xia Dong was filled with grief and indignation. She picked up a wooden stick as thick as her wrist and rushed forward to beat the boar's head. The boar's eyes were red with anger, and it struggled with her. Bailey Han was stunned by her sudden outburst. When he came back to his senses, the wild boar was already rolling on the ground and howling. I'll beat you to death, bastard. How dare you steal my food and drink? Xia Dong picked up the wooden stick and scolded it as she hit it. Sob, sob. She had planned this with great difficulty. She had added something to the sour pear soup. It was all drunk by this pighead. Ow, ow, ow. The wild boar was in pain from the beating. It struggled to roll up from the ground and fiercely charged towards Xia Dong. Be careful. Bailey Han suddenly rushed up and hugged Xia Dong as they quickly dodged the wild boar's attack. He quickly pulled out a dagger from between his legs, and when the wild boar rushed up again, he fiercely stabbed it into its neck. Blood suddenly flew out and splattered all over Xia Dong's face and body. With one stab, the wild boar fell to the ground with a bang and could not move. Xia Dong's heart was beating rapidly. She trembled as she wiped the blood from her face. Her eyes rolled back, and she fell into Bailey Han's arms. Hey, were you playing it now? Bailey Han shook her body. It was soft, and there was no reaction. This time, he became anxious. She had really fainted. With a sigh, he accepted his fate and carried her into his tent. He put her on the bed, wet a towel with mineral water, and wiped the blood off her face. His fingers carelessly slid across her cheeks, and he couldn't help but think of what happened on the deserted island a month ago. His lips curled into a helpless arc. It was as if she was his nemesis, and as long as he was with her, bad luck would happen. Xia Dong's body temperature was abnormally high. Her face was red, and her lips were chapped. Bailey Han guessed that she had a heat stroke. He took out the medicine bottle he had brought with him and poured some water for her to take the medicine. After calling her for more than 10 minutes, she finally opened her eyes in a daze. You have a heat stroke. Take the medicine. Bailey Han placed a pillow behind her. Since you're not feeling well, why didn't you say so earlier? She took the medicine in a daze. Her eyes were still a little dazed, as if she did not understand what he was saying. Bailey Han sighed and brushed the messy hair on her face behind her ear. Take this medicine every 3 hours. You should rest first. I'll call you later. With his help, she lay down again. Only then did she sober up a little. Her eyes were watery as she said softly, I'm sorry. I was afraid that you would say that I'm a burden to you and leave me alone. In the end, I'm still a burden to you. Her eyes were pitiful and filled with pleading and hope. He could not help but pinch the space between his eyebrows. Rest first. Don't think about anything else. She replied with a gigai. Oh, and closed her eyes. Bailey Han sat beside her and pulled the blanket for her. He leaned against the tent and did not know how much time had passed. His eyelids were heavy, and he almost fell asleep. He pinched the back of his hand to wake himself up. He checked the time on the alarm and then leaned against the tent to doze off. Ah, a shrill scream. Bailey Han was so shocked that he was no longer sleepy. What's wrong? Wild boars.
There are so many wild boars. They want to kill me.
Xia Dong threw herself into Bailey Han's arms. Her whole body was trembling. She was weak and frightened. Bailey Han wanted to push her away, but when he saw her panic-stricken face, he stretched out his hand and slowly placed it on her head. He gently stroked her hair. Don't be afraid. I've already killed it. Even if there are 10 or 100 more, I'll still kill them all. There was no reply. It turned out that she had fallen asleep again. Bailey Han gently helped her lie down. He touched her forehead and found that it was still a little hot. Xia Dong, do you want some water? Xia Dong impatiently turned over and slept soundly. There was space on the bed. Bailey Han simply sat beside her and leaned against her to rest. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Xia Dong suddenly sat up beside him and screamed, They're coming again. There are so many wild boars. Xia Dong, wake up. Bailey Han grabbed her arm to prevent her from falling. Sob, sob, it's so scary. Xia Dong suddenly threw herself into his arms and sobbed. Bailey Han frowned and lowered his head to look at her. Her eyes were tightly shut and there were still tears on her cheeks. Her breathing was a little rapid and she looked like she was in pain. He touched her head. So it was a nightmare. He wanted to help her lie down, but she hugged him too tightly and he couldn't pull her away. Forget it. Just lie down like this. She hugged him like this and fell asleep again. He also fell asleep very quickly until the sound of the alarm woke him up. Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong. She hadn't woken up yet. He gently shook her awake and fed her the medicine. Welfare Xinwu 799. Chapter 74. That night, Bailey Han fed her medicine twice. When she woke up in the morning, he checked her temperature and pulse and found that she had returned to normal. Xia Dong also woke up. She said in a hoarse voice, I'm sorry for causing you trouble. You already apologized last night. If you get better quickly and can walk down the mountain on your own, that would be the best way to repay me. Bailey Han tried his best to be gentle, as if nothing had happened between them. He poured a glass of water for her. You just recovered from your fever. Drink more water. Thank you. Xia Dong held his hand and drank the water quickly. Do you want more? No, thank you. Rest first. He put down the glass and turned to walk out of the tent. Xia Dong lay back on the bed. She didn't feel sleepy at all. She really had a heat stroke and fainted last night, but she had faked the nightmares. She suddenly felt a little guilty. She knew that Bailey Han took good care of her, and his attitude towards her had improved a lot. Everything was going according to her expectations. She pulled the blanket over her head and said very softly, Bailey Han, I'm sorry. She didn't know how much time had passed when she heard footsteps coming in. She quickly closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep. Someone pulled away the blanket covering her head and a cold hand touched her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled. She heard Bailey Han's deep voice. I know you're awake.
Get up and eat something.
She opened her eyes and saw Bailey Han sitting beside her with a lunchbox in his hand. She quickly sat up and he handed the lunchbox to her. The lunchbox was filled with fruit. There were sliced apples, pears, and red cherry tomatoes. The bright colors made her stomach growl.
He coughed.
The wild boar knocked everything over. I only found this. It's good enough to have these. Xia Dong picked up a cherry tomato and fed it to his mouth. She smiled contentedly. Here, thank you for saving my life. His lips curled into a smile as he opened his mouth. She placed the cherry tomato into his mouth. After breakfast, they packed up the tent and luggage. Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong. How is it? Can you go down the mountain? Xia Dong grinned, revealing 8 little white teeth. She patted her chest. Hey, don't worry. I'm all better. I can go up the mountain to fight a tiger. There's no need to fight a tiger. Bailey Han smiled and responded to her joke for the first time. If we meet a wild boar again, I'm counting on you to save the beauty, to save the hero. Thinking of her heroic act last night, Bailey Han smiled. She covered her face in shame. It was because I had a heat stroke yesterday that I didn't perform well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have saved my life. Bailey Han shook his head as a smile appeared in his eyes. The two walked down the mountain. Xia Dong was slightly apologetic. It's all because of me. You came here for nothing and didn't find the orchids. Bailey Han didn't care.
I didn't have any hope. I just came out to relax.
Xia Dong walked at the back and the corners of his lips curled up. Actually, Bailey Han wasn't that annoying. He had a good heart. She was distracted and didn't pay attention to her feet.
She slipped and stumbled.
Bailey Han heard the noise and quickly turned around to support her. He couldn't help but complain. Why are you so careless? She touched her nose embarrassedly. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. His mouth twitched. Be careful. After walking for more than 2 hours, they finally reached the bottom of the mountain. Xia Dong was so tired that she was panting. Bailey Han drove her to a restaurant in the tourist area as if nothing had happened. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they rested for a while. It was already 3 in the afternoon. As the car drove towards the city, Xia Dong was a little absent-minded. She kept thinking about how to make use of this rare opportunity. Finally, she realized that the opportunity had come. Through the car window, she saw a hotel standing on the side of the road. She covered her mouth and retched. Bailey Han stopped the car. "What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" "I feel like vomiting. Maybe I ate something wrong."
Don't follow me.
Xia Dong covered her mouth, opened the car door, and ran out. She bent over and vomited exaggeratedly on the road. When she returned to the car, her face was pale. Bailey Han handed her a bottle of water to rinse her mouth. "Hold on for another 2 hours. We'll be in the city soon." Xia Dong leaned against the seat weakly. "I feel so uncomfortable. I can't hold on until we get back to the city." He frowned. "Then what should we do?" She raised her arm and pointed at the hotel not far away. "I want to rest there."
Please take me there.
"If you're in a hurry, you can go back to the city first. I can't take up any more of your time. I'll take a taxi back to the city myself." Bailey Han pinched the space between his eyebrows. It was already late. By the time she had rested enough, it would be almost evening. At that time, it would be difficult to take a taxi back to the city. He was not a philanthropist and did not have the kindness to sympathize with others. However, he still could not leave her here. Since he knew that she was trouble, he should not have taken her in from the beginning. He should not have abandoned her halfway. This was Bailey Han's principle. In the hotel, Bailey Han was wearing a bathrobe. His hair was wet as he leaned against the sofa and made a phone call. Xia Dong knocked on his door. "What's the matter?" She stood at the door with a tired look on her face. "Can I borrow your bathroom? The shower in my room is broken."
He nodded. "Thank you."
When Xia Dong passed by the table, she quietly put the thing in her hand into his glass of water. The white pill fell into the water and quickly turned into small bubbles and disappeared. The sound of water splashing came from the bathroom. The frosted glass door blurred her graceful figure. Bailey Han finished his phone call and saw the scene. His eyes darkened, and he picked up the glass of water on the table and drank it in one gulp. The sound of water splashing continued. His body was getting hotter and hotter. His throat was dry and thirsty. He really wanted something to moisturize his throat. He poured another glass of water and drank it in one gulp. However, it was far from enough to relieve his hunger and thirst. The sound of water stopped, and the bathroom door opened. Xia Dong walked out in a low-cut spaghetti strap dress. Her snow-white skin was slightly red from the steam, like fine silk. She didn't wear any underwear. Her perfect breasts stood proudly, and her slender waist swayed slightly. Her beautiful features were charming as she walked in front of him. Her gaze inadvertently swept across the empty glass of water. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "You must not have rested well, because you took care of me last night. I won't disturb your rest. Good night." She was only 2 steps away from him. He could clearly smell the fragrance of lavender on her body. That intoxicating fragrance was familiar, as if he had smelled it somewhere before. His body became hotter. Bailey Han's gaze became deep. His gaze involuntarily fell on her rosy lips. Her lips were very charming, like a plump rose. They must taste good. He subconsciously licked his parched lips. A certain desire rose in his body. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning in his lower abdomen, burning his entire body. This feeling was not unfamiliar. Damn it, he actually had a reaction to this woman. Bailey Han cursed in a low voice. He patted his head and rushed into the bathroom, trying to sober himself up with cold water. "Bailey Han, what's wrong with you?" Xia Dong knew that the aphrodisiac in the glass and the aphrodisiac on his body had taken effect. She deliberately followed him. When the cold water washed over his body, it did indeed feel a lot more comfortable. However, the burning desire in his body was not alleviated. His deep eyes turned a strange red because of lust and desire, giving his beautiful face a kind of wild charm. His handsome features were gloomy and cold. The cold water splashed on his broad chest, making him look extremely sexy. Xia Dong grabbed his arm. Bailey Han, are you having a fever? It's so hot.
Get out.
When her cold hands landed on his skin, he felt as if he had been electrocuted. He tried to suppress the urge and growled at her. Get out. I'm not leaving. You're sick. How can I leave? Xia Dong wrapped her arms around his waist. Don't force yourself. I'll help you out. Go away. He wanted to shake her off, but she hugged him very tightly. Her body skillfully rubbed against his back. He could clearly feel her softness. He groaned in pain, and his stiff body tensed up. All the blood in his body seemed to have gathered in his lower abdomen. Beads of sweat slid down his forehead, past his throbbing Adam's apple and across his muscular chest. Bailey Han felt as if his body was about to explode. He desperately wanted to release himself. Bailey Han, I'm so hot. Let's go out. In the enclosed space, the atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Xia Dong's gentle voice teased Bailey Han's nerves. Her hands caressed his chest and muscles restlessly, and her lips wandered around his back. Her teasing was like lighting a match. The oppressive atmosphere was suddenly ignited. Bailey Han suddenly turned around and hugged her tightly. He kissed her cheeks frantically. He could no longer control his rationality. His Adam's apple moved up and down uncomfortably. The sweat on his forehead dripped onto her skin. There was only one thought in his mind. He wanted her. He wanted her so much that he was going crazy. Her thin clothes had been unknowingly thrown on the floor. Bailey Han suddenly picked her up and placed her on the sink. Their hot bodies were tightly pressed together. He lifted her chin with one hand and kissed her greedily. His other hand spread her legs. The scorching kiss followed her delicate collarbone and went down to her buds. He carefully ground and tasted them as if he had found a precious treasure. Xia Dong's body trembled violently. Her white jade-like feet tightened. A seductive whimper overflowed from her lips. Her hands involuntarily wrapped around his shoulders. Feeling that the person beneath him had melted into a puddle of spring water, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He couldn't wait any longer and charged straight in. It was so painful that Xia Dong's nails dug into his back, leaving bloody marks on his skin. The pain quickly passed, and she felt waves of numbness. Her lips were sealed, and all her moans were blocked. Her body and lower body collided fiercely with each other, and soon, it was as if fireworks had been set off in her mind, and she felt dizzy from the convulsions. However, Bailey Han didn't feel tired at all. He was still fiercely charging. The sink was made of marble and was very smooth. However, her legs were hanging, and it was already uncomfortable. Especially when he used force, her body was forced to lean against the wall. Her back was in pain from the friction. It hurts, my back hurts. Let's go back to the room. She frowned and bit his shoulder. Welfare, Xingwu 799. Bailey Han angrily threw the phone away. When she heard the loud bang, Lilith was so frightened that she trembled. She carefully put the phone away. Chief Editor, is this a good idea? If Bailey Han found out that they were lying through their teeth, they would die a horrible death. No, the entire magazine would be buried with them. Xia Dong was very calm. It's okay, because I will immediately arrange for a business trip according to the route you mentioned. Bailey Han frowned. He was annoyed with his temper just now. After he calmed down, he realized that Lilith was probably just brushing him off. How could it be so coincidental that she would be on a business trip for such a long time? He paused for a moment and directly called the director of Glamour magazine. President Bailey, hello. Xia Dong is on a business trip? Why didn't I know about it? Oh, no, she is still at the office. Still at the office? Woman, you are dead meat. Bailey Han slowly hung up the phone. The corner of his lips raised into a sinister arc. After Xia Dong got the approval from the director, she heard him muttering curiously, Xia Dong, the president of Xinghao Group, just called and asked if you were on a business trip. Strange. How did he know that you're going abroad for a business trip? Xia Dong was suddenly petrified. She had a bad premonition. This premonition lasted until she got off work. When she walked out of the office building, she planned to go home as soon as possible and then escape abroad. She ran to the parking lot, and just as she took out her car keys, a Maybach stopped in front of her with a screech. Bailey Han got out of the car expressionlessly, lifted her up and threw her into the back seat without saying a word. Bailey Han, what are you doing? Before Xia Dong had time to get up from the back seat, the Maybach had already rushed out of the parking lot at the speed of a rocket. She pounced on the car window and was pushed back to the back seat by him. His handsome face was as cold as iron. His deep eyes were rolling with anger, but his voice was very calm. You better be honest with me. Otherwise, I don't mind throwing you to South America to feed the mermaids. Xia Dong knew that she had fallen into his hands. Even if she fought hard, she couldn't escape, so she calmed down. Where are you going to take me? A place where we can talk. He didn't look at her again. Obviously, he didn't want to talk to her anymore. Bailey Han took her to a high-end private clubhouse. He led her into a secluded suite that had a living room, a dining room, and a comfortable bedroom. Xia Dong sat on the sofa, and he sat opposite her. Xia Dong waited for him to speak. After waiting for almost 10 minutes, the godfather still didn't speak. Xia Dong had nothing better to do. She poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of him. Then, she poured another cup for herself. She coughed. If you have something to say, you can say it now. Bailey Han's face was still very ugly. His voice was still cold. Regarding what happened last night, I have 3 choices. 1. To kill you to prevent future trouble. He paused and looked at her meaningfully. She was shocked and secretly looked in the direction of the escape. What are the other 2 choices? 2. To be responsible for you. He gritted his teeth and was obviously very reluctant. 3. To pretend that nothing happened. She immediately raised her hand. I choose the 3rd choice. This choice coincides with my thoughts. Let's pretend that nothing happened. You go your way, and I'll go mine. Bailey Han's face was even uglier. He thought that this woman had tricked him into bed so that she could marry him. He didn't expect her to say such words. When did he become so unattractive? Don't hesitate. Choose the 3rd choice. Don't worry, after I walk out of here, I'll forget everything that happened last night. I won't cause you any trouble. Xia Dong was so excited that her eyes were sparkling. She almost raised her hand and swore. Very well. It seems that we have reached a consensus. He leaned forward, his cold face carrying an undisguised murderous aura. His low voice was like that of a demon. Remember what you said at this moment. If you violate it in the slightest, I will tear you into pieces, including your 2 lovely nephews at home. You have to believe that I'm capable of doing what I say. He patted her cheek with his cold hand. After carefully wiping his fingers with a handkerchief, he threw the handkerchief into the bin. After he left, Xia Dong leaned against the sofa and breathed a sigh of relief. If he chose to kill her, she would definitely be buried here. In the following week, Xia Dong directly flew abroad for business. First, she went to Milan, then Paris. Because of the time difference, she always called her children in the middle of the night to say good morning. She didn't care about Bailey Han at all. Bailey Han suddenly felt that time had become very long. Although he was very busy with work, he would go home on time every day to eat with his son. Occasionally, he would accompany Su Yunqian to improve the relationship between her and his son. But at night, when he lay in bed to rest, he still felt that it wasn't fulfilling enough.
He didn't know why.
On this day, Bailey Han was drinking with a client at Charm. They had just signed a big order, and the client invited him to drink to celebrate their happy cooperation. Bailey Han saw Bailey Yun and Xiao Tiansheng huddled together. He didn't know what they were talking about, but they were laughing and chatting. He said a few words to the client and walked over to Bailey Yun. He pulled out a chair and sat down.
What are you talking about?
You look so happy. I can hear your laughter from over there. Bailey Yun laughed heartily and raised his arm to greet him. Hi, brother. We were talking about Xia Xia. We said that she used to be very cute and liked to wrinkle her face like a bun. Bailey Han keenly sensed that something was wrong. You used to know each other a long time ago? Yes. Bai Lian looked like he was already drunk. He laid lazily on the table, his pair of foxy eyes narrowed into a thin line. His magnetic voice was high up in the air. We've known each other since 5 years ago.
It's not just me.
You guys, Xiao Tianqing suddenly reached out to cover Bailey Yun's mouth and chuckled. Han, don't listen to his nonsense. He's drunk. Bailey Han frowned. Let him go. Let him finish. Xiao Tianqing secretly pinched Bailey Yun's waist. It hurt so much that Bailey Yun twitched twice. His foxy eyes suddenly opened, but half of the alcohol had disappeared. I told you to let him go. Xiao Tianqing reluctantly withdrew his hand and glared fiercely at Bailey Yun. The meaning of that look was very obvious. Don't talk nonsense. Bailey Yun blinked and didn't say a word. Bailey Han said, Yun, continue. Bailey Yun looked up at the ceiling and then at the bar counter. He suddenly reached out and wrapped his arm around Xiao Tianqing's neck. He grinned. Tianqing, I told you not to hide this from brother. How can you hide this kind of thing? You didn't believe me. Look, brother found out. He rattled on and on. Bailey Han frowned.
Get to the point.
The point is, Tianqing pursued Xia Dong 5 years ago, but Xia Dong didn't like him and didn't accept his pursuit. Xiao Tianqing protested with his eyes. His charm was obvious to everyone. There had never been a woman that he couldn't get. Bailey Yun forced him to give in with his eyes. If you're a bro, then I'll help you this time. Xiao Tianqing was defeated in the end. He shrunk his neck and licked his wounds, silently taking the blame. Bailey Yun patted his head with satisfaction and smiled mischievously. It turns out that Xia has good taste. She has a discerning eye and can tell that I'm the one who's worth entrusting her life to. Xiao Tianqing cried silently. He would never admit that he had such a brother who rubbed salt on other people's wounds. Bailey Han pressed the veins on his forehead. This brother of his was really worrisome. Bai Liyun smiled as he stroked his chin. Come to think of it, it should be afternoon tea time in London now. I have to hurry home and talk to Xia on the phone. Don't be envious of me, you two. He swayed his hips, which were tightly wrapped by his tight pants, and walked away, leaving the two dumbfounded. His swaying hips caused a series of screams.
Come and see.
Song Shu 566. Chapter 76. For some reason, Bailey Han's mood became extremely bad. This feeling was similar to when you picked up a puppy on the street and despised it for being ugly. You finally started to get familiar with it and started to think that its ugliness was actually acceptable, but in the end, it ran away with its previous owner. The most annoying thing was that it had more than one previous owner. Bailey Han wanted to roar and throw a punch, but he quickly rejected his emotions. He was conflicted and walked back to the client with a sullen face. The client thought that he had angered him and quickly called 2 beautiful miss to accompany him. Bailey Han looked at the girls around him and became more and more irritated. He suppressed himself and found an excuse to leave. Sitting in the car, Bailey Han seemed to be possessed as he pressed a string of numbers. Xia Dong had just taken a nap when her phone rang. She squinted her eyes and reached for her phone. She asked in a half-awake state, "Hello, who is this?" Hearing her familiar voice, Bailey Han suddenly woke up. Damn it, he must be crazy. He decisively hung up the phone and started the car. When he returned to the villa, the lights in the bedroom were on. Su Yunqian was lying on his spacious bed. The thin blanket just covered her chest, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. He walked to the bed and gently pulled the blanket over her body. She seemed to be awakened and opened her sleepy eyes. Her voice was lazy and charming. "Han, you're back." He helped her sit up. "Why didn't you tell me that you were coming over?" She smiled and snuggled into his arms. "I called you in the evening. You said that you were going to meet a client, so I didn't want to disturb you. Have you had dinner?" "Yes, I had dinner with Xiao Yi. He even told me about the interesting things that happened in the kindergarten." He patted her head. This is a good sign. Xiao Yi seems to have started to accept you. She drew circles on his chest with her slender fingers and whispered suggestively, What about you? When do you plan to accept me wholeheartedly? Bailey Han caught her fingers. Stop playing. It's getting late. Rest early, okay? He caressed her cheek and kissed her forehead gently before getting up and entering the bathroom. Su Yunqian took out his phone from his jacket and opened the call log. When she saw Xia Dong's name, her fingers tightened and her eyes were filled with coldness. Bailey Han came out of the shower and saw the person curled up on the bed with her back facing him. He thought that she had already fallen asleep, so he gently lay beside her. However, she hugged him. Her hands caressed his body, sliding from his chest to his waist. Her lips kissed his, gently sucking on his lips. In his arms, she twisted her waist seductively, blooming with charm, seductive moans, teasing his nerves. However, he didn't feel anything. His deep eyes were as cold as ever. Her teasing had no effect at all. He was so calm that it made her feel cold. She sobbed. Why is it like this? Hun, am I not attractive to you at all? He pinched his eyebrows. Yunqian, I'm already very tired. Han, I'm getting more and more desperate. Do you know that? We've been together for 6 years, but you've never touched me. Do you not like me? Or is it because of other reasons? She looked at him pitifully. I'm very afraid. I'm afraid that I'll be old and won't be able to win your favor. When will you give me a promise? In front of outsiders, she was a goddess. However, in front of him, she felt like a lowly servant who had been begging for her master's love. It had been 6 years. She no longer had the patience to endure it. Today, she would get an answer. Yunqian, why would you have such thoughts? You know that I've always loved you. Bailey Han rubbed his forehead. He had a headache. Let's not talk about this first, okay? No, I have to get an answer. Su Yunqian couldn't calm down when she thought of the call records in his phone. Last time at the racecourse, he and that B*TCH clearly had no interaction. Why did they suddenly resume contact? Bailey Han was not in a good mood. Being pestered by her, he became more and more irritable. Although there was no change in his expression, his tone became heavier. I've already said that today is not the right time to talk about this. You sleep here. I'll go to the guest room. He got up and was about to leave when Su Yunqian stopped him. No need. You don't have to leave. The one who should leave is me. Han, I think we should think about it calmly. What exactly do we want? Yunqian, are you forcing me? Bailey Han's face darkened. He didn't like to be held by the neck, even if it was the person he liked. She turned her back to him and elegantly dressed. After she was dressed neatly, she tiptoed and kissed him on the cheek. She said softly, Han, I'm not forcing you. I just want you to think about it clearly. How about a month? It's enough for us to think about this relationship. Good night. She walked out of his room with her head held high like a proud queen. She didn't walk very fast. She thought that he would chase after her, just like when they quarreled before. However, she still didn't see him until she got the car. In the driver's seat, Su Yunqian could no longer maintain the indifference on her face. She was a little annoyed, a little angry, and a little sad, but more than that, there was hatred. 5 years ago, if that bitch hadn't appeared and ruined everything, she would have become Bailey's wife and given birth to the heir of the Bailey family. She wouldn't have to compromise to maintain their relationship like now. She clenched the steering wheel with both hands, and a pair of eyes full of hatred and viciousness were reflected in the rearview mirror. Xia Dong, I don't care who is behind you. In short, we are irreconcilable. At this moment, Xia Dong, who was far away in London, had just woken up from her afternoon nap. She rubbed her messy hair and got out of bed. Patting her groggy head, she remembered that she had received a silent phone call in her sleep. Worried that it had something to do with the children, she quickly checked the call log. Bailey Han. Strange, why did he call? Did he press the wrong number? Yes, that must be it. Xia Dong didn't take the call to heart at all. After washing up, she began to pack her luggage in preparation for the fashion show that night. Just as she was holding a set of clothes in front of her and hesitating, her cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number that looked like a public phone. She said in fluent English, "Hello, I'm Xia Dong. May I know who's calling?" The other party spoke in fluent English in a low and magnetic voice. "Beautiful miss, please open the window. I have a surprise for you." What was it? Why was he being so mysterious? Xia Dong held the cell phone in one hand and pushed open the window with the other. She saw a tall man walking out of a phone booth on the street below. The man was wearing a suit, a black trench coat, and a black gentleman's hat. His gaze was fixed on her. He slowly took off his hat, revealing an extraordinarily handsome face. His tall nose cast a perfect shadow under the sunlight, and his sexy thin lips curved into a cold smile. Xia Dong covered her mouth in disbelief. In the next second, she dashed downstairs and ran towards the man. The man opened his arms and hugged Xia Dong, who was running towards him, and twirled her around happily. Xia Dong laughed loudly, and the man laughed as well. After a long while, the man put her down. She punched his chest in annoyance and complained, "Brother Shin, you're so bad. You didn't even tell me you were coming." Mika Keto ruffled her hair, his obsidian eyes filled with undetectable affection. "If I told you in advance, would it still be a surprise?" Xia Dong wrinkled her delicate nose. All right. No matter what, you're right. Hurry up and tell me why you're in London. Aren't you in Rome?" "Of course it's because you're in London. I missed you so much that I flew over from Rome." He looked at her and smiled half-jokingly. She punched him unhappily. "Don't make fun of me. Be serious." He held her hand and led her upstairs with a gentle smile. "I'm serious. When you were in Milan, I planned to visit you. However, something came up at the last minute, so I flew over while you were still in Europe. I'm so touched. Brother Shun is still the best to me." Xia Dong rolled into his arms like a puppy and rubbed against him. "You're already a mother of two, but you're still so young." Mika Keto ruffled her hair in amusement. "You're my big brother. I won't feel embarrassed if I have to rely on you for the rest of my life." Xia Dong smiled and hugged his arm. In her heart, he was her big brother. She could rely on him, act coquettishly, and complain to him. He was the most trustworthy person. She had always been grateful that there was such a person in this world who could let her throw away her disguise and simply be herself. "I really don't know what to do with you." Mika Keto smiled, but his eyes were a little gloomy. "Just a big brother?" The gloominess disappeared in a flash. Looking at the little woman in his arms and giggling foolishly, he felt very happy. Even his voice was full of laughter. "Are you hungry? I'll take you to eat something delicious." "Okay, but let me make it clear first. I don't eat Western food. I've been eating Western food in Europe for a week. I don't want to smell Western food until next year." She made an exaggerated, disgusted expression, which made him laugh. "You're exaggerating. According to what you said, people who study in Europe don't want to smell Western food for the rest of their lives." She held her forehead sadly. "That's because they have a strong stomach, and I don't want to let my poor thin stomach suffer." "Yes, Your Highness. Your night will definitely satisfy you." Mika Keto blinked and stretched out his right arm in front of her like a gentleman. She raised her chin and elegantly held his arm. The two of them walked side by side and smiled at each other. Mika Keto drove her to a small restaurant in Chinatown. Although the restaurant was in a very secluded place, the hall was full of people. Fortunately, Mika Keto had made a reservation in advance. Otherwise, they would have had to wait for a while. A waiter in a tang suit led them to their seats. Xia Dong exclaimed, "There are so many people here." Mika Keto smiled and said, "Yes, this restaurant makes the best Chinese food, so business has always been good." She rested her chin on her hand and asked curiously, "How did you find this place?" "I used to be in London. One of my men brought me here." Mika Keto helped her disinfect the bowls and chopsticks and placed them in front of her. Just then, a waiter walked over quickly with a large metal plate of spicy crabs. The spicy aroma of the red crabs made Xiaodong's mouth water.
Come and see.
Hongcha 866. Chapter 77. Slow down. Be careful. It's hot. Mika Keto opened the crab, took out the crab meat, and placed it on the plate for her. Oh, it's delicious. Brother Shin, try it too. Xiaodong picked up a spicy shrimp that the waiter had just served and placed it on his plate. The crayfish was spicy, fragrant, and delicious. Xiaodong swallowed her belly and chewed until her face was covered in oil. Mika Keto took out a tissue and wiped the oil off her face. He had seen her embarrassed look too many times, so she didn't mind at all. She smiled foolishly and moved her face closer to him so that he could wipe it off. His movements were very gentle, and his eyes were full of smiles. How is it? Is it delicious? Yes. I finally got to eat something delicious. I'm so satisfied. Xiaodong's eyes were filled with tears, like a spoiled puppy. Mika Keto patted her head. What else do you want to eat? I'll order it for you. She rubbed her bulging belly. No need, I'm already full. Seeing the pile of shrimp and crab shells in front of him, she said embarrassedly, the ones you peeled are all in my stomach. You didn't eat much yourself. This time, it's my turn to peel the shells for you. He stopped her. No need, I'm not hungry. If you're full, I'll send you back to the hotel. Mika Keto sent her back to the hotel and told her that he would be leaving at 8 o'clock in the evening. That time was when Xiaodong would be attending the fashion show. Do you have to be in such a hurry? We've only been together for 3 hours. Her reluctant expression made his mood very good. We'll meet again soon. When that time comes, I can accompany you for a long time. All right then. Be careful on the road, and even more so in Rome. Don't be seduced by beautiful girls. She hugged him reluctantly. Okay. His embrace was so warm, and his voice was as mellow as wine. She couldn't help but be intoxicated. He hadn't left yet, but she was already missing him. She stood in front of the window and watched him go downstairs. She stood downstairs and waved goodbye. She got into the car and drove to the airport. The little girl's temperament slowly calmed down. She took a long breath and raised her arm again. Cheer up, today is also a beautiful day. She picked up the clothes piled on the bed and compared them one by one. In the end, she chose an evening gown that was stylish and did not lose her character. After changing her clothes and putting on her makeup, she once again looked like the calm and capable chief editor Xiaodong in the mirror. The fashion show was very successful. Xiaodong dug up a lot of news materials and sorted them out overnight and sent them to Lilith. She was busy until early in the morning. When she looked at the time, she found that it was the time for the children to go to kindergarten. She quickly called them and gave them a morning kiss. Then she threw herself on the bed and fell asleep. She was very busy on this business trip and didn't have time to think about anything else. When she returned to China, she would find that she was once again being played by fate. Baby's mommy, I'm back. Did you miss me? Xiaodong came to her aunt's house with bags of gifts and took the 2 children home. Xiao Guai was watching TV, with Xia Yun in the living room. When she saw Xiaodong come back, she immediately cheered and pounced on her. Mommy, I missed you so much. Mommy missed you so much too, Gigai. Xiaodong hugged her daughter's soft little body and kissed her madly. Xiao Bao wore a pair of black-framed glasses on the bridge of her nose. She carried a small laptop and walked out of the room in slippers. She looked up at her coolly. Mom, you still know to come back. I thought you were going to stay abroad and marry a foreigner. Baby, don't be angry. Mommy brought you a gift. Xiaodong squatted down and rubbed her son's head. She pulled out a beautifully packaged box from the pile of bags and handed it to him with a smile. Open it and see if you like it. Inside the box was a white, small Apple laptop. Xiao Bao's black grape-like eyes sparkled, but there was a disdainful smile on her lips. She raised her chin arrogantly. Mom, you abandoned us and went abroad for 10 whole days. Do you think you can bribe me with a laptop? Xia Dong rubbed her son's soft cheeks. Of course not. Mommy knows you're not that easy to bribe, so I'll be with you for the next 2 days off. You can do whatever you want. The company's leaders saw how hard it was for her to go on a business trip and gave her 2 days off. Okay. Mommy, I want to go to the amusement park, the aquarium, and the botanical garden. Xiao Guai counted on her fingers as she looked forward to the future. Mommy rarely took her out to play ever since they returned to the country. Mommy even secretly took her to the hospital and forbade her from telling her brother and aunt. She wanted to be like other children and go to interesting places to play, not the hospital that smelled of medicine. That won't do. Gigai, you can't be greedy. You can only go to 2 places in 2 days. Gigai and Baby can each choose a place that you want to go to the most, okay? Then I can only choose one. Her pink cheeks collapsed in disappointment. Her large, watery eyes blinked as she reached out to tug at the corner of Xia Dong's shirt. Mommy, can we go to a few more places? I really want to go. Xia Dong comforted her patiently. No, you can't. You'll be very tired if you go to many places in one day. Xiao Bao blinked and stroked his sister's head. Gigai, Mommy just came back from a business trip. She's also very tired. We'll only have fun if we go to 1 place a day, right? Big brother will let you choose, so you can choose 2 places. Brother is right. We can't let Mommy be too tired. Xiao Guai's delicate little face broke into a smile. She said thoughtfully, Then let's go to the botanical garden and the planetarium. I know brother has always wanted to go to the planetarium. Xia Dong was touched to see them being so considerate and giving in to each other. No matter how tired or hard it was outside, when she came home and saw their smiling faces, she felt that all the hard work was worth it. It was the first day they went to the botanical garden. The botanical garden in a city was very famous. There were thousands of plants and flowers in it, and it covered a very large area. Xia Dong took them to visit the desert vegetation, took a picture of them in front of the strange cactus, and then led them into the tropical botanical garden. There were many precious plants in the tropical botanical garden. The children had only seen them on TV. Walking into the rainforest, they seemed to have walked into another world. They opened their eyes curiously, looked here and there, and surrounded the staff member to listen to him explain the wonders of the plants. There were also many children around the staff member. They laughed excitedly, clapped their hands, and shouted, "Ah, that's great. This tree can even catch birds. That's so interesting. This tree can be shy. Look, touch it, and it will dance." Xia Guai tugged at Xia Dong's clothes. "Mommy, look. That's the tree that Uncle said can drive away mosquitoes. The leaves look so strange." Xia Dong looked in the direction of her daughter's finger. Xiao Bao was not paying attention to them. All his attention was now attracted by the people outside the rainforest. The rainforest was built in a large glass room. Through the glass, Xiao Bao saw Bailey Yi and Bailey Han standing together. They seemed to be talking about something. Bailey Han had a faint smile on his face, and Bailey Yi was also smiling happily. It was the first time Xiao Bao had seen Bailey Yi smile so brightly. Xiao Bao clenched his small fists tightly. His cheeks puffed up in anger, and he gritted his teeth. "Hey, Xiao Bao, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Why do you look like you're constipated?" Xia Dong turned around and saw that her son's face was ugly. She rubbed his head with concern. "Constipated?" Xiao Bao's face became even uglier. He bent over angrily and ran out like a small cannonball. "Bao Bao, don't run around. Be careful." Seeing her son angrily rushing out without a word, Xia Dong became anxious. She quickly picked up her daughter and chased after him. Xiao Bao felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to run out to get some fresh air, so he buried his head and rushed out desperately. His small body was like a cannonball, and he crashed into a pair of slender legs. Because the speed was too fast and the impact was too strong, he fell to the ground with a plop. He looked up and saw Bailey Han's handsome face. His anger immediately reached its peak. His small chest rose and fell rapidly, and his cheeks puffed up. He glared at him angrily. You bumped into me. Bailey Han looked at the child sitting on the ground angrily. He was a little unhappy, but he still bent over to pull him up from the ground. Unexpectedly, the child avoided his hands and angrily shouted, "Go away, I don't want your fake kindness. Xia Xiaobao, I won't allow you to yell at my daddy." Bailey realized that the person sitting on the ground shamelessly was his rival Xia Xiaobao, so he shouted back at him with a straight face. When Xia Dong rushed over with her daughter in her arms, she saw this awkward scene. Her forehead was sweating profusely. Then, her daughter subconsciously called out, which made her sweat even more. "Mommy, brother fell down." Xia Dong quickly covered her daughter's mouth and pulled up Xia Xiaobao, who was sitting on the ground, to find a hole to hide in.
Mommy?
Bailey Han looked at her expressionlessly, his gaze sharp and malicious. Xia Dong knew that her face must be very ugly now. "You heard wrong," she said, "Auntie." "Humph." Xia Xiaobao glared at Bailey Han angrily. "Uncle, not only are your eyes bad, your ears are also bad." "My little sister," clearly said Auntie. Bailey Han's eyes narrowed and emitted a dangerous light. He said word by word, "My eyes are very good, and my ears are even more sensitive. I can still distinguish the pronunciation of mommy and auntie." "That's right," Xiao Guai said mommy just now. "I also heard it." Bailey stood up and testified. Xia Dong face-bombed. "Bailey Han, what's the point of arguing about this? I'm not only the children's aunt, but also their godmother. What's wrong with them calling me mommy?" The veins on Bailey Han's forehead throbbed. Of course it was useful. This involved the children's biological parents. "That's right, Uncle. Don't think that I'll let you off just because you changed the topic. You bumped into me just now and hurt my little butt. My weak heart also suffered a great deal of damage. Moreover, if it wasn't treated in time, there might be repercussions. So, you have to compensate me." Xia Xiaobao stood in front of Xia Dong with her chest puffed out. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she stared at Bailey Han, diverting all his attention to herself. "How do you want me to compensate you?" Bailey Han said indifferently. Awesome novel, Hong Cha 866. Chapter 78. He raised his chin arrogantly and looked at him arrogantly. "First of all, you have to take me to the hospital and compensate me for the checkup fees and a series of other expenses. However, seeing that we're all busy, you can just give me the money directly. You don't have to take me to the hospital. Secondly, you suddenly bumped into me and scared me, so you have to compensate me for the mental damage. Lastly, I'm injured and can't go to kindergarten, so you have to compensate me for the tuition. That's all. Look at how expensive and classy you're dressed. I'm sure you won't blame me for this little expense, okay?" His last, "oh," was a long drawl, with a hint of mockery. Bailey Han's eyebrows moved slightly. Bailey was stunned. Xia Dong couldn't help but hold her forehead. Xiao Guai blinked her big eyes and said worriedly, "Brother, are you hurt? Let's hurry to the hospital and see a doctor, okay?" Xia Xiaobao patted her head. "Gi Gai, after this uncle compensates me, I'll have money to go to the hospital." After that, he stretched out his hand in front of Bailey Han. "So, uncle, hurry up and compensate me. Don't delay my treatment." Bailey finally came back to his senses and shouted angrily, "Xia Xiaobao, why don't you be a robber? What kind of robber logic is that? You were running too fast and bumped into my daddy. You're simply too shameless." Bailey Yi's face was full of disgust. Xia Xiaobao grimaced. "Humph, the one who bumps into someone and avoids responsibility is the shameless one." Bailey Yi's face was fierce. "I won't allow you to talk about my daddy like that. You apologize to my daddy." "I won't." The two children glared at each other angrily, as if they wanted to kill each other with their eyes. It looked like they were about to pounce on each other and wrestle. "Xiao Yi." Bailey Han narrowed his eyes and gestured for his son to step back. He looked at the arrogant brat in front of him and said, "Okay, I'll give it to you." Xia Dong looked at Bailey Han in shock, and her jaw dropped. Bailey Han took out a check from his pocket and filled it out. Bailey retorted indignantly, "Daddy, This is extortion. Don't give the money to the little swindler. Xia Xiaobao straightened his neck. You're the liar. Your whole family are liars. Xiaobao, that's enough. Stop talking. Xia Dong was speechless. She pulled Xia Xiaobao away from Bailey Han and said to Bailey Han, Mr. Bailey, Xiaobao was just joking. Don't take it seriously. We'll leave first. You guys have fun. After she finished speaking, she carried her daughter and pulled her son to leave. However, Xiaobao grabbed her arm and refused to leave. Bailey Han tore the check and handed it to Xiaobao. Is this enough? Xiaobao saw the 5 zeros on the check and looked like he had accepted it reluctantly. He snorted and said, Not bad. After he finished speaking, he snatched the check from Bailey Han's hand and stuffed it into his pocket. Then he ran away with his short legs. Xia Dong helplessly looked at her son's back as he ran away. She said to Bailey Han, I'll get the money back and return it to you. I'll leave first.
There's no need for that.
Bailey Han calmly said these 4 words. He took his son's hand and left without looking at her again. Bailey Yi was indignant. He didn't know why Daddy would give the money to Xia Xiaobao. Although he didn't care about the money, he was furious that Xia Xiaobao had succeeded in his scheme. Along the way, he kept a straight face and didn't say a word. Bailey Han patted his head. Don't be unhappy. Money is just a worldly possession. I know. I'm just indignant. Xia Xiaobao is too despicable. Bailey Yi was angry at the thought of his smug face. He's very smart. You two have similar personalities. Maybe you can become good friends. I won't become friends with him. He'll only go against me. Ever since he spilled the juice on Xiaoguai, he and Xia Xiaobao had become sworn enemies. The two of them wanted to bite each other to death. How could they become friends? Nothing is absolute. Daddy and your Uncle Tiansheng were sworn enemies when they were young, but we still became friends. Bailey Han tried to comfort his son. He knew that his son had always been a loner in school and didn't have many friends. He didn't want his son to have a lonely childhood like he did.
Oh.
Bailey Yi nodded as if he understood. When Xia Dong found Xia Xiaobao, he was flicking the check in his hand with his small white hand. A smug smile hung on his adorable face. Xia Dong knocked on his head angrily. Xia Xiaobao, you little money grubber. You're too brazen. Xiaobao's little face suddenly scrunched up. He covered his head with one hand and held the check in the other. Mom, you hit me too hard. I wonder if I'm your biological son. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows.
What?
Other than brazen, you dare to disown your own family? You unfilial son. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Hey, how am I unfilial? Mom, don't accuse me of anything. It's because I'm too filial that I blackmailed Bailey Han. Humph. He dared to abandon his mother and have a son with another woman. I'll make him bleed. Oh, right. He suddenly patted his little head. It was all his mother's fault for suddenly going on a business trip. He almost forgot about the matter of stealing seeds. Okay, I won't waste time with you. Let's forget about this matter. Don't have anything to do with Bailey Han in the future. Xia Dong stretched out her hand and said, Give me the check.
Why?
I worked so hard to earn this. Xia Bao quickly stuffed the check into his pocket and covered it tightly as if he was hiding a treasure. Of course I'm returning it to Bailey Han. No, I'd rather die than give in. Xia Xiaobao. It's no use calling my name. I can't hear you. Xia Xiaobao covered his ears and ran away. Xia Dong put her hand on her forehead. In the end, she failed to persuade her son to hand over the check. That night, when her son was asleep, she took the check out of his secret vault and wanted to find an opportunity to return it to Bailey Han. Early the next morning, the first thing Xiao Bao did when he woke up was to check his vault. He found that the check was gone. With messy hair and messy pajamas, he knocked loudly on Xia Dong's door. Xia Dong opened the door with a pair of sleepy eyes. He immediately put his hands on his hips and angrily protested. Mom, you actually went through my vault without permission. I'm going to sue you. Little brat, if you continue to make trouble, I'll use force to suppress you. Xiaodong was very angry when she woke up. She looked at her son with a dark face and said, "It's just 100,000 yuan. You are more than that in a year. Why are you so petty? Be careful that you won't grow tall." Xiao Bao bit his lip angrily and glared at her. This is not a matter of money. It's a matter of a man's dignity. Xiaodong was very sleepy. She directly ignored him and lay on the bed again. He was so angry that he kept yelling. In the end, Xiao Guai came forward and coaxed him. Next to the planetarium was an art gallery. Xiaodong came down from the planetarium with the children and saw a large group of people coming out of the art gallery. A few girls who looked like students were chatting. I heard that teacher Xiao's wife is supporting him behind his back for this art exhibition. Needless to say, his wife is Miss Su of the Su Group. She's rich and powerful. It's not easy to open an art exhibition. Don't talk so loudly. Be careful not to be heard by others. What's there to be afraid of? Everyone knows anyway. Xiaodong was expressionless. She held the children's hands and walked past them quietly. "Mommy, I'm so thirsty." Xiao Guai stopped walking and shook Xiaodong's arm. Xiaodong looked around and saw a McDonald's about 20 meters away. She said, "Gigai, hold on a little longer. We'll rest in McDonald's." Xiao Guai said obediently, Yes, Mommy. Let's go." Xiaodong held the children's hands and was about to continue walking forward when a man's voice suddenly came from behind.
Xia.
Xiaodong's body froze. This voice was not familiar, but it was not unfamiliar either. She heard it once 5 years ago, but she remembered it deeply. She did not want to turn around. She held the two children's small hands tightly. "Mommy, you're hurting me," Xiao Guai complained tearfully. "I'm sorry, baby." Xiaodong quickly let go. Xia Zhenxing had already caught up with them. Just like 5 years ago, he was still wearing a high-class suit and his hair was combed neatly. The only difference was that there was white hair on his head and a few more wrinkles on his face. His face was full of shock and disbelief, and his eyes seemed to be covered with mist.
Xia, it's really you.
I thought I would never see you again in this life." His originally straight back was now slightly hunched, and his eyes were shining with agitation and pain. "But, Mr. Xia, I don't want to see you at all. I don't want to see you again in this life." Every time Xiaodong thought of him, her heart would twitch in pain. She felt sorry for her mother. Even on the day her mother passed away, she still could not forget him. Xia Zhenxing was shocked by his daughter's words and staggered back a step. Xiao Guai looked at Xia Zhenxing curiously. This grandpa was so strange. Why was he standing in front of Mommy? Xia Xiaobao's pure eyes were full of curiosity. What was the relationship between this grandpa and Mommy? Why did Mommy look so pained when she saw him? Why did she seem to hate him? "Mr. Xia, please move aside. We're leaving," Xiaodong said expressionlessly. Xia Zhenxing could not bear to move aside. Ever since he saw her 5 years ago, he had not seen her again. He was afraid that if he moved aside this time, he would never see her again. Even if he could say a few more words to her, it would be good enough. He stammered, Xia, these two children are very cute. They look a lot like you. Are you married? Does your husband treat you well?" "They're my nephews," Xiaodong explained coldly with an impatient look on her face. "Mr. Xia, I'm not interested in catching up with you. Please move aside," he said shamelessly. Xia, where do you live now? What's your phone number? I want to see you." She rejected him flatly. "No need. You will disturb my current life." She no longer had the patience to continue pestering him. She pulled the two children and walked around him. Xia Zhenxing did not give up and grabbed her arm. Xia, Dad doesn't expect your forgiveness, but at least let Dad know how you and your mother are doing." Mom. Xiaodong could no longer maintain her composure. She flung his arm away and shouted angrily, "Don't mention Mom to me.
She's already dead. She was killed by you."
"What right do you have to mention her?" "Xia Zhenxing, I hate you. I don't want to see you again for the rest of my life." After shouting, Xia Dong glared at him fiercely and pulled the two children away without looking back. Xia Jinqing staggered back 2 steps, his face turning pale. Dead, dead. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 79. How did Xiaoling die? How could it be? No, I don't believe it. You must be lying to me. Xia, don't curse your mother. Your mother must be alive and well. Xia Jinqing rushed forward and twisted Xia Dong's arm like a madman. Go away. No, it can't be. She can't be dead. Xia Jinqing suffered a huge blow. His eyes were unfocused as he muttered to himself. Mother is already dead. She died because of you. Seeing him like this, Xia Dong felt very satisfied. He viciously stabbed at his wound again, but this time, he also stabbed his own wound. His heart ached so much that he couldn't suppress it.
No.
Xia Jinqing's face was pale as he hugged his head. He squatted on the ground and sobbed softly. No. Tears unknowingly poured out. Xia Dong stubbornly touched her face and heartlessly walked away with the children. Xia Jinqing hugged his head and cried bitterly. The passers-by watched curiously, but no one went forward to ask. In the crowd, there was a girl holding a bouquet of flowers standing there quietly. She saw the whole scene and stood there for a few seconds. She raised her hand and threw the bouquet into the trash can. The corner of her mouth twitched in disdain. Her daddy was really useless. He was crying on the street. She didn't want to go up and embarrass herself. Su Xingchen walked in the direction Xia Dong left.
Her phone rang.
It was the person in charge of the art exhibition. Miss Su, do you know where Mr. Xia is? I called him, but he didn't pick up. Su Xingchen smiled sweetly. I don't know. I was going to congratulate Daddy on successfully opening the art exhibition, but there was a traffic jam on the way, so I didn't reach the art gallery. Okay, then I'll have to trouble you. Miss Su, I'll try to contact Mr. Xia again. No problem. She smiled and said, goodbye. Then she put away her phone. When she looked up, she saw Xia Dong bringing the two children into McDonald's. In McDonald's, Xia Dong ordered drinks and food for Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao and found a seat. He looked a little depressed. Xiao Bao sat on the chair and asked curiously, Mom, was that old man our grandfather? Xiao Bao was sipping on the orange juice as he asked curiously, is that old man our grandfather? Xia Dong's hand, which was holding the drink, stiffened. Her expression was terrible. Baby, don't talk about him.
I don't want to talk about him.
Oh, I got it. Xiao Bao Gigai shut her mouth, picked up a hamburger, and handed it to her. Mommy, don't be sad.
Eat.
Xia Dong forced a smile and stroked her son's head. I'm not hungry. You guys eat. I'll take you to see Grandma after dinner. Grandma? Xiao Guai blinked her big watery eyes. Is that Mommy's mommy? Yes. Mommy will take you to see her. She'll be very happy. Just as Xia Dong brought the children out of McDonald's, Su Xingchen also came out. He drove his Ferrari and followed behind them, maintaining a distance that was neither too far nor too close. Since he wouldn't be discovered, he wouldn't lose them either. The white BMW drove into the suburban cemetery. A few minutes later, a Ferrari pulled up behind the BMW. Xiao Guai held a bouquet of lilies in her hands. Xia Dong carried Xiao Guai and held Xiao Bao's hand as they walked into the cemetery. Small tombstones were erected, looking eerie. Xiao Guai hugged her neck and asked gently, Mommy, why does Grandma live here? This place looks so scary. Xia Dong hugged her daughter tightly and said in a low voice, because Grandma has gone to a place very, very far away. This is just a place to remember her. Xiao Guai still didn't understand, but seeing her mommy's sad expression, she didn't ask any more questions. Xia Dong walked in front of a black tombstone. The words, the tomb of the loving mother Xiaoling, were engraved on the tombstone. There was also a small photo of a woman in the photo smiling gently. Xia Dong placed the lilies in front of the tombstone and pursed her lips gently. Mommy, I brought the children to see you. She pulled Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao to kneel in front of the tombstone and said softly, Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai, this is your grandmother. Call her Grandma. Grandma, a crisp voice drifted in the quiet air. Mommy, I only came to see you now. Do you blame me? Xiaodong touched the photo on the tombstone, and her eyes were misty. She had so many things to say to her mother, but she couldn't say it in front of the children. In the end, she could only smile bitterly. Mommy, I'm sorry. I've done a lot of wrong things. I'm too ashamed to see you. Mommy, I saw Xiaozhenqing today. He didn't know you were gone. Mommy, I scolded him, but I'm also very sad. Unknowingly, tears were streaming down her face. Mommy, I really miss you. She would never forget the day when the results of the junior high exam were released. She happily ran home to report the good news to her mother, but when she ran into the alley, she saw her house being engulfed in flames. She cried and screamed crazily, wanting to rush into the fire, but the neighbor stopped her. In the end, she cried until she fainted in the uncle's arms. Her mother died in the sea of fire just like that. Not even her bones were left. The neighbor said that her mother set the fire because she couldn't stand being abandoned by her husband and couldn't stand the torment of a hard life. Why didn't you wait until I grew up? Why didn't you wait until I was filial to you? She held onto the tombstone and cried until she was out of breath. Mommy, don't cry. Gigai is so scared. Her daughter's delicate face was also full of tears, but she used her soft little hands to wipe away her mother's tears. Looking at her sensible daughter in front of her, Xia Dong gritted her teeth and suppressed the sadness in her heart. She hugged her daughter tightly in her arms. Why did God have to torture her like this? Her daughter was so young, but she had to endure the torment of illness? A small hand gently stroked her back and comforted her. Mommy, I'll protect you from now on. Xia Dong looked up with tears in her eyes and saw her son's strong face. His cheeks were so young, but they were filled with courage and tenacity. She slowly curved her lips and revealed a smile. Good, our little boy has grown up into a man. She should have been brave in front of her children, but she revealed her weak side. Her emotions gradually calmed down. She stroked the children's heads and said softly, Baby, Gigai, say goodbye to Grandma. We'll visit her again next time. Xiao Guai leaned closer to the tombstone and rubbed her pink cheeks against the photo. She said softly, Grandma, if you want Gigai, we'll visit you again. Xiao Bao stood with his chest puffed out and his head raised. He said solemnly, Grandma, don't worry. I'll take good care of Mommy and Xiao Guai. Mommy, please bless Gigai and let her live a healthy and happy life. Please also bless Baby and let him live a safe and happy life. After saying goodbye, Xia Dong left the cemetery with the children with red and swollen eyes. After they left, a beautiful figure stood up in front of another tombstone. She held a recording pen in her hand and smiled sweetly, but it seemed a little strange. My good sister, I didn't expect you to bring me such a big surprise. Thank you so much. Su Xingqian walked out of the cemetery while talking on the phone. Hello, Sister Yunqian. I found something very interesting. It's related to Xia Dong. Do you want to know? What is it? Do you know Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai? Aren't they Xia Dong's cousin's children? Su Xingqian smiled brightly. That's not right. They're actually Xia Dong's children. I heard them call Xia Dong Mommy with my own ears. On the other side of the phone, Su Yunqian's body trembled. A terrifying thought suddenly popped up in her mind.
Her voice was dry.
Who's the father of the children? Su Xingqian shrugged. Who knows? Maybe it's Brother Han. There was silence on the other side of the phone. After a few seconds, Su Xingqian heard a bang, and then it was completely silent. The smile on her lips became brighter and brighter. She hummed a little tune and raised her hands in a circle happily. La la la. After returning home, Su Xingqian found that his parents were not home. The servant said, Miss, Sir is hospitalized. Madam is accompanying him in the hospital. Madam also told Miss not to worry. Sir is just suffering from a heart attack, and it's not very serious. Okay, I got it.
You can leave now.
Su Xingchen acted as if nothing had happened. She went upstairs and entered her room. Her fair and slender fingers played with the recording pen. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly. She supported her cheek with one hand and said in annoyance, "Recording pen, recording pen. Who should I hand you to? Give it to Grandma Bailey? No, no. Grandma will definitely think that I'm a gossiper. She'll hate me. Hand it to the media? No, no. If those two little bastards are Brother Han's children, then Brother Han will know the truth. Okay. I'll hand it to Sister Yunqian. Let her worry about it." She snapped her fingers and put it in a document bag. She asked the servant to send it to Su Yunqian's office as fast as possible. After Su Yunqian returned from England, she returned to the family business and took up the position of director of the planning department. On the surface, she was only the director of the planning department, but everyone in the company knew that she was the future leader. Even the people on the board of directors were respectful to her. However, Su Yunqian never put on airs. She was always pleasant to everyone. However, the assistant felt that Su Yunqian was a little strange today. She accidentally broke the cup twice in a row. The first time was after she received a private call. The second time was after she received a document bag. Su Yunqian quickly restrained her anger and hatred and made a phone call. "Help me do something." The next day, the recording on the recording pen was made into a CD and mailed anonymously to old Madame Bailey. Not even a fingerprint was left. After old Madame Bailey heard the contents of the CD, her expression changed. She ordered the driver to get the car. She had to go out. Xia Dong had just picked up the children from kindergarten when a black car drove in front of her. Old Madame walked out with a cold face. "Xia Dong, I want to talk to you." The neighbors in the neighborhood looked over curiously. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "Old Madame, please come upstairs with me." She drove the children back to their room. She made a cup of tea and put it in front of Old Madame. "Old Madame, you can say whatever you want." Old Madame went straight to the point. "Xia Xiaobao and Xiaoguai, are they your children?" Xia Dong thought about why Old Madame suddenly asked this question. She smiled calmly. "Old Madame, you already know whether they are my children or not." Old Madame sneered. "I got the news that they were your nephews. But today I heard that they're actually your biological children." Ad Songshu 566. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.